Hey guys. This is part 7 of What If Naruto was captured by Madara and went back in time with the tailed beasts. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 25. A date went wrong. The apparitions of 7 shinobi wearing the same black cloaks with red clouds on them flickered into view around a blazing torch, where 2 other figures were standing next to. We only have 9 here. The apparition with the shape of Deidara, the mad bomber of Iwagakure, blinked. Where are Kakuzu and Haiden? Dead, the figure which was the Deva Path of Pain answered curtly. Dead? Deidara laughed. Kakuzu maybe, but a monster like Haiden can die too? I really want to see how he died. That's not the way to talk about your comrades, Deidara. Even with an apparition, the glare of the Rinnegan was still incredibly scary. So who killed them? Toby raised his question. Just like before, the Nine Tails and his gang, Zetsu answered instead of Pain. So it was them, eh? Kisame whistled. Well, considering who they're going with, no wonder they're killed. It's 2 of the legendary Sannin after all. We were hiding in the outskirt of Konoha, waiting to ambush the Jinchuriki on his way back from his mission, Itachi explained. Unfortunately for us, when he came back, we noticed that he was flanked by not only Tsunade and Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, but also a girl with the same description of the 7 Tails Jinchuriki. The other members of the Akatsuki looked at each other awkwardly. Well, if that's the case, even I won't be stupid enough to charge into battle. Finally, after a minute of silence, Deidara admitted grudgingly. Still, you don't have much more time, Itachi. Pain glared at the Uchiha. Why didn't you just sneak into Konoha and kidnap him? You know Konoha like your own hand. Yes, but after our last attempt of sneaking into Konoha, they seem to have tightened their security, Itachi answered. Now I can't find any way to get into Konoha without being caught. Still my fault though. Yes, that is your fault, indeed, Pain said dryly. So you'd better find a way to get the Nine Tails quickly before. He didn't even need finish the sentence. Everyone already knew what was going to happen if Itachi couldn't bring Naruto back in time. The apparition of Itachi nodded, and faded away in a flicker of light. The other members also disappeared one by one. After the last member, Toby, had disappeared after throwing a glance back at them, Conan turned to Pain. Are you really sure that trusting Itachi that much is wise? He is a considerable force the Akatsuki needs, Pain answered, not even looking at her. But, Conan bit her lips. But before she could say anything else, Pain had raised a hand to stop her. You don't have to worry about Itachi. After all, people won't bet their own life into something if they really have no intention to complete it. After a day full of missions, having a bowl of ramen is always the best thing in the world. Naruto sighed happily when the steaming bowl of ramen landed on the counter in front of him. He inhaled sharply. The aroma of the legendary food reached his nostrils, invading all his senses, sending him to heaven. He was a little bit miffed about Sasuke and Sakura, though. Being a Chunin, he could take solo missions if he wanted, but mostly, his missions were still with Team 7, now named Team Kakashi. But his 2 teammates always flatly refused when he asked them to go for ramen. Sasuke always negged and mocked him, why not asking your harem to join you, and Sakura always said that she was going to train. Thinking of what Sakura had insisted, Naruto couldn't help but shudder. The last thing he needed was for Sakura to turn into another Gai-sensei clone. Just leave them for a while, Naruto-kun, Ayam said with a giggle. They need some time alone, just like you with your girls, you know. Naruto groaned. I have told you many times, I'm not making a harem, Nei-chan. Ayam giggled, rolling her eyes. Yeah, of course you don't. Now your ramen is getting cold, remember? Naruto blinked. Ah, right. He picked up his chopsticks, ready to dig in. Boss. There is trouble. Naruto dropped his chopsticks again thanks to Konohamaru's sudden storming into the ramen stand. What the hell, Konohamaru? He cried. I was just going to eat. There is something wrong with Iruka-sensei. Those words actually drew Naruto's attention away from the ramen bowl. Say what? So Iruka-sensei is acting weird, huh? Konohamaru nodded. Yes, boss. It seems he's unable to focus on the lessons anymore. From time to time he would pull something out of his desk drawer and stare at it for a very long time, even forgetting that he's in the class with us. Weird, huh? Naruto grimaced. Iruka-sensei couldn't focus on the lessons? Well, that is weird. When did that start happening? About a month ago, after the invasion, Konohamaru answered, and winced. Well, I'm not sure, but it seems it started happening after he got out of the hospital. Naruto scratched his head. After getting out of the hospital? Those words didn't bring him any more clues than the words before. But come to think of it, Iruka-sensei did say something about someone saving him from the sound shinobi. Inside his head suddenly rose the voice of Chome giggling. What's so funny? He asked confusedly. Oh, nothing, Chome giggled mischievously. You'll find out soon enough. Naruto shuddered. Nothing which makes Chome giggling mischievously might be a good thing. Ignoring the annoyed hey of the beetle inside his head, he turned back to Konohamaru. So did you find out what makes Iruka-sensei acting so weird? Konohamaru scratched his head. Actually, no. I kinda don't know where to start it, so, he admitted sheepishly. Naruto facebeamed. Isn't it obvious? The first target must be Iruka-sensei's desk. You think this is gonna work, boss? Naruto answered the boy while still focusing on the lock he was picking. Of course it will work. I have cracked this lock many times when I was still an academy student. Click. There you go, Naruto said smugly, pushing the door open. Just a child's play. You are actually a child too, boss, Konohamaru deadpan. Oi. The two slipped into the room. Today was Sunday. That's the reason why the doors had been locked, because no one was studying. In no time, the two reached Iruka's desk easily. Now let's see. Konohamaru reached out at the handle of his teacher's drawer, but suddenly, Naruto's hand held him back. Wait. Let me check something first. This is Iruka-sensei we're talking about. We can't be too careful. He walked around the desk, looked below and around it carefully, then pulled out a magnifying glass from his pouch and checked the drawer. Then he laughed. See? Look here, Konohamaru. I told you there would be something. Look at this. He pointed at a corner of the desk near the drawer. A very tiny string connected them together. If someone doesn't pay close attention, they will definitely be caught in the trap. To go so far as trapping his own desk like this, even when it was locked tight. Iruka-sensei must really have something to hide, Naruto noted. So can you break it? Konohamaru asked in thrill. Naruto grinned foxily. Of course I can. I'm Konoha's king of pranks, believe it. There is no trap I cannot break. Now let's see. With very quick and professional movements, Naruto effortlessly disarmed the trap trigger on the desk and picked the lock on the drawer. He reached out for the knob with a gleeful expression. Now, let's see what Iruka-sensei has to hide. He pulled the knob, and all hell broke loose. You suck, boss. Oh, shut up, Konohamaru. Help me get out of here, will you? Naruto grumbled in annoyance. He was now tied up in some kind of cocoon made of cloth, tar, ninja wire, and something that smelled suspiciously like a mixture of mud and water from the sewer. His eyes were puffy thanks to a very generous amount of pepper the hidden traps had just dumped on his face. On his chest now lay a board which read All Hail the King of Pranks. After a very long 20 minutes, Konohamaru finally managed to pry Naruto out of his prison. The blonde spat out a blob of gunk and grumbled. Oh, now this is personal. Iruka-sensei is gonna pay for this. Konohamaru scrunched his nose. Maybe you should go take a shower first, boss. Oh, shut up. Ayayawayawa. Ruyuwan. Oh, easy for you to say. Damn it, boss. Why did you pull us into this situation? Oh, screw you. How the fuck could I know Iruka-sensei could turn his own house into a fucking dungeon? Language, Naruto-kun. There are children here. Oh, so that's all what you care about. There is a fucking boulder chasing us. How in the world did he do it anyway? Well, it's easy. He only needs a few space-expanding seals around the corridor and… That's a rhetorical question. This is so humiliating. After the disastrous attempt of sneaking into Iruka's house to find out the truth, Naruto and Konohamaru were now slumping on the ground with heavy breaths. Since when had Iruka-sensei learned to be such a sadist? Ugh. I give up, boss. Konohamaru cried out. Iruka-sensei is such a jerk. I'm going home. Hey! You're going to desert like that? Naruto yelled at the boys retreating back. What about Iruka-sensei's secret? Where is your ninja honor? Screw it! Konohamaru yelled back. I want to be a ninja. I don't want to die in a useless prank. That's where you're wrong, Konohamaru. Konohamaru turned back to see Naruto pointing at him dramatically, the air around him glowing as if there was a weird holy aura covering his head. Looking at Naruto right now, anyone who was familiar with Konoha would disturbingly think of a certain self-proclaimed green beast of Konoha. What the hell are you doing, boss? Konohamaru asked, weirded out. There is nothing useless in this world, Konohamaru. Naruto claimed proudly. How dare you underestimate the power of pranking, brat? I have defeated many powerful people with it. Like the perverted old man? Konohamaru chimed in with a snort. Yeah, like Naruto stopped midway. Wait a second. What's with that tone, brat? Yeah, Konohamaru drawled. You still suck, boss. I'm going home. Then he jumped away, leaving Naruto behind with a long face. Well, screw you. Naruto yelled at his back. Who needs an ungrateful brat like you? I'll find Iruka-sensei's secret on my own, believe it! You keep saying that, Isabu snorted inside Naruto's head. Do you even have a plan to do it? Of course I do, Naruto growled. If I cannot get the information out of his house and his work, then the best way to do it is to get it from himself. So basically, your way to do it is stalking him day and night. What's wrong with that? Hinata-chan did that all the time, and it worked. Yeah, because it only works on you. Oi. Naruto was now sitting in a bush, looking into the classroom where Iruka was sitting in, preparing for any reaction. That Iruka guy knows all of your tricks, Naruto, Gyuki noted. You're gonna get caught for sure. Pfft, Naruto snorted. You think I'm going to be caught that easily? You have underestimated me too much, Gyuki. You have just been caught in those traps, Goku quipped in. Well, yeah, but have you forgotten who my master is? I might not be able to be as strong as him, but at least I have learned a few tricks. Transparency Jutsu. Naruto's eyes bulged out when Jiraiya suddenly disappeared from the view. Holy crap! This is so cool! You literally disappeared. The perverted sage flickered into view again, and bragged. Of course! With this jutsu, no one could see me or even smell me. And if I'm careful, no one could even hear me too. Complete invisibility. This is why I'm the best spy in the world. Yeah, and the creepiest stalker in the world too, Naruto drawled. Wow, that jutsu is kinda nifty, Matatabi noted. Why didn't I see you use it before, Naruto-kun? Nah, Naruto waved her off. It's just a jutsu designed for mischief. All it does is just hiding my presence, completely, without a trace. A beat. Shit, why didn't I think of that before? Everyone facepalmed. No matter how strong Naruto could be, he's always a moron, Kurama muttered. But as it turned out, Naruto couldn't find anything from stalking Iruka all week either. Everything the man did was what he always did in a normal day, teaching, buying groceries, going home as usual. When Iruka slammed the door of his house shut behind him, Naruto let out a disappointed breath. Ugh! What a useless day! I wasted all week following him everywhere, and he didn't even show any suspicious action. What the hell? Yeah, what the hell indeed, Goku said dryly. You could have used the time to train or do missions, and yet you went and stalked your sensei. Oi! It's just because I care about him, Naruto retorted. But the voice of Koko cut in. If you wanted to find something, you should have waited until tomorrow. Why? The horse nodded. Because tomorrow is Sunday. Sunday. The day of resting for everyone. The day for people like Shikamaru to laze around without having to do anything. The day for friends to hang out at each other's house for DVD. And also the day for couples to go on dates. So Iruka-sensei is going on a date with someone? Considering his actions, that might be the best answer. So why didn't you guys tell me about that before? The beast shrugged. Hey, he's out. Naruto lifted his eyes, and saw Iruka walking out from his door. But he was taken aback when he saw the outfit his teacher was wearing right now. Instead of the normal Chunin uniform of Konoha he tended to wear, he was now wearing a very formal suit which looked very expensive for the salary of a teacher. On his chest lay a red rose, the same kind as what he was holding on his hand right now. His usual ponytail was now straightened up with something which looked suspiciously like a combination of water and hairspray. Obviously, the outfit of someone who was going on his first date. Yup, he's definitely going on a date, Matatabi commented. But with whom? Asked Naruto confusedly. Well, if you want to know, follow him, Goku urged. He's getting away. Ah, right. Iruka didn't realize that there was a blonde student of him following behind him. He just continued walking with a goofy, happy face, almost forgetting about everything else around him, sometimes even bumping at other people. Yup, definitely a guy in love who was going on his first date. But what annoyed Naruto so much was where he was going to. Where the hell is Iruka-sensei going to? Naruto thought in annoyance. He's just going around and around. Indeed. Naruto had followed him for nearly half an hour already, but his teacher didn't even have a clear understanding about where he was going to, or it seemed to be. Somehow Naruto had a disturbing feeling that his teacher was leading him around deliberately without him even knowing it. Soon, Naruto saw himself in the far corner of Konoha, on the trail leading to the Forest of Death. What the hell is he doing here? Is he going to the Forest of Death for a date? But Naruto's worry was just for naught. The teacher finally stopped in front of a house at the outskirt of the village. So this is the destination, Kurama noted. Yeah, it seems so, Naruto agreed. But whose house is this? We'll see soon enough, won't we? Right on cue, Iruka knocked on the door. From inside of the house, a cheerful coming echoed out. Wait a sec. This voice. The door burst open, and Naruto had to try his best not to let out a loud WTF. The one who had just opened the door, and was running out with a very happy smile on her face was none other than Anko Madarashi. What the fuck? Crazy snake lady? What the fucking fuck? Although, that doesn't mean he couldn't let it out in his head. Because that Anko Madarashi didn't look a little bit like the Anko Madarashi he knew. Instead of the usual trench coat with the provocative fishnet bodysuit, now she was wearing a modest, simple green sundress which couldn't be mistaken from a normal young girl. Her tomboyish, spiky, messy ponytail was now let down on her shoulders like a small, purple stream. And that happy, blushing in love face was definitely not something anyone could ever expect from the person named Anko Madarashi at all. Wow, Goku whistled. She looks really nice with a change of clothes, huh? Wah. Look, they're departing. Chome exclaimed when Iruka reached out a hand, and Anko grabbed it with a giggle. Hurry up. They're getting away. Wah. I think they broke him, Shikaku, as blunt as usual, noted dryly. Wah. A movie? Seriously? What else? Come on, Naruto-kun. Follow them. Naruto groaned. Of all the places, why did the first place the couple go to have to be a movie theater? Good morning, sir. What do you want to see? The clerk greeted Naruto with a smile. Just give me whatever that couple earlier got, Naruto said, rather hastily. The clerk gave him an odd look, then pushed a button on the machine, getting out a ticket and giving it to Naruto. He looked at the title of the movie, then groaned again. Love Under the Moon? Seriously? Ugh, my mouth suddenly tastes like diabetes. You tasted diabetes before? Wow, didn't know you're that disgusting. That's just a way to talk. After half a day walking around, the stalking mission had led Naruto to the entertainment district of Konoha. True to the words, what the couple was doing right now could only be described as what a couple of sickeningly sweethearts would do. Walking next to each other, hand in hand, sometimes letting her head rest on his shoulder. The only thing they hadn't done in their date was kissing. Actually, there is nothing surprising about a couple acting lovey-dovey together. But Iruka Umino, the serious schoolteacher, and Anko Madarashi, the snake mistress, the horror of genin all over Konoha, acting lovey-dovey together, well, that's a completely different idea. Looking at the couple, Naruto couldn't help but shudder. The scene in front of him, it was just wrong. No matter how much he thought, he still couldn't figure out the reason how it could have happened. What the hell did he see in her anyway? What the hell did she see in him anyway? The voice suddenly appearing next to him nearly made him jump. He jerked his head to the left, and immediately saw the source. KMMPH. You idiot! Karen, the owner of the voice, gritted out. Do you want both of us to be caught? What the hell are you doing here? Naruto whispered at his sister, whose hands had now let go of his mouth. The redhead shrugged. The same reason as you, I guess. Anko-sensei had been acting strangely these days. So I guessed I would go and figure it out, you know? So you have stalked me since I left home? Naruto looked at the girl warily. To answer him, the girl just smiled mischievously. So what if I did? But if that's the case, how couldn't I? His mind flashed. Wait a second. Kurama, you blocked my sensing on her, did you? So what if I did? Kurama echoed on Karen's words, to Naruto's annoyance. Ugh, you girls. I told you girls are annoying, Goku drawled, and the 5 nasty cracks inside Naruto's head made it obvious what had just happened to him. Naruto made a face of an odd combination of a wince and a smirk. Hey, wait a second, where did they go? Karen's voice snapped Naruto back to his sense. He turned his head back, and realized Irika and Anko had disappeared since God knows when. What the? Naruto shouted, jumping out of the bush he was hiding. Where the hell did they go? They're just here a second ago. Karen-chan, why didn't you pay attention to them? Oh, like you have the right to talk. The Uzumaki girl retorted immediately. You're the one who zoned out in the first place. Okay, Naruto took a deep breath to calm himself down. They couldn't have gone too far, we can still find them. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A battalion of Naruto clones appeared. Go find Irika-sensei and the crazy snake lady. Don't let them notice you. Naruto barked out the order, and the army of clones scattered to every direction. Soon, there were only Naruto and Karen left on the street. Why do you call her that? Karen raised an eyebrow at Naruto. The blonde just shuddered. You still haven't known anything, Karen-chan. You still haven't known yet. There they are. Finally, after running around Konoha searching, with the help of clones, the pair finally found Anko and Irika, sitting on top of the Hokage monument, looking at the sun setting at the horizon. Wait, how did they get here so fast? This is, like, half a mile from the entertainment district. Naruto just shrugged. Don't even ask for sense in a world of ninja, Karen-chan. Come on, let's go up there. Walking from the street to the top of the mountain was not a short trip, but Naruto and Karen made it there in just a few minutes. When they arrived, they heard Irika speak. Don't worry, Anko-chan. From the moment I saw you after the invasion, I already knew. Naruto and Karen froze. Somehow I don't think this is something we should stick our noses in, the Uzumaki girl muttered. Oh, you think? Naruto gritted his teeth. Outside, Anko was stuttering. She was stuttering. What did you know? That you were the one who saved me in the invasion, when I was nearly killed, the teacher smiled. Don't worry, no one told me your name. But the voice I heard before I lost consciousness, it was definitely your voice, not anyone else, and the fact that people said that the girl who brought me to the hospital crying was weird, well, it's not hard to connect them together. Anko blushed. Can't believe I was found out that easily. Why didn't you tell me about that? Irika suddenly asked. Anko looked away. Because of your past? Anko definitely didn't expect such a straight question. Wah, how did you? Irika smiled. Because you're just like someone I know, Anko-chan. That boy. I must say, he is also cursed with the greatest burden. And I, once before, had also doubted him, looking at him with hostility. Surely you understand who I was talking about, right, Anko-chan? So I'm nothing better than that brat, huh? Anko muttered unhappily with a pout. Irika chuckled, and suddenly pulled her into an embrace by her shoulder, making her nearly jumped. Since when had I said that it was a bad thing? Naruto is still the student I'm proudest of. What I'm saying here is everyone has a chance to, and deserves to, be themselves, not the burden they're cursed to bear. To me, you're always Anko Madarashi, the foul-mouthed kunoichi of Konohagakure, and a very nice and beautiful woman. And she's down, Chome quipped. Yeah, Goku agreed. I didn't expect that guy to know how to flirt that well. The two pairs of eyes met each other. For a moment, there was no other sound, except the heartbeats of the two people. Then, Anko's hands reached out, cupping Irika's cheeks. Their eyes closed, their lips drew to each other, and a kiss. A very deep, very passionate, very full of love, and very adult kiss was delivered to Irika by Anko. The teacher also returned the kiss with the same enthusiasm, and loud, wet noises suddenly filled the air. Naruto's face reddened uncontrollably. Ugh, goddammit. I really don't need to see this. Although, even from here, I could still feel that it was completely different from the time Haku-chan kissed me. Arg. God damn it. What the hell am I thinking? What else? You missed that kiss, that's why. Oh, shut up. Not helping. Karen let out a whistle. What? She raised an eyebrow when Naruto stared at her. It's so cute and romantic. I swear understanding girls is way harder than fighting Madara, Naruto muttered in his breath. Karen glared at him, annoyed. The couple separated, and Iruka looked at the sky. It was already dark. Oh, it's kinda late already. Maybe I should take you home before. His words were halted when Anko suddenly grabbed his sleeve. Can I crash at your house tonight? Naruto and Karen froze again. Did she just say what I think she said? Karen muttered in shock. Even Iruka seemed appalled by the sudden request of his, now, girlfriend, but the shock passed almost immediately, and with a grin, he swept down and lifted her up in a bridal carry, and disappeared in a body flicker. The Hokage monument was now left with only the two Uzumaki. Wow, after a while, Naruto finally managed to express his feeling. Wow, indeed, Karen also nodded in awe. First date, and somehow he managed to make her ask him to bed. Naruto glared at her. Then a loud grumbling noise came out from the two children's stomachs. So, wanna go to Ichiraku's? Iruka's apartment was bathed in moonlight. The light danced on the air, showing Anko Mitarashi in all her glory to the eyes of one Iruka Yumino. You're so beautiful, Anko-chan, Iruka mouthed, his eyes traced across the curves on his girlfriend's body. I know, Anko mouthed back, a naughty light gleamed in her eyes. And I love you. The straps of her sundress slipped down her shoulders. It dropped to the ground, revealing her white, smooth and flawless skin under it. Tonight I'm all yours, she murmured sultrily, pulling Iruka in for another kiss. However, the man gently pushed her away and held her shoulders back. Anko-chan. Anko-chan, are you really sure about this? I mean, after this, there is no going back for us anymore. I am sure, Anko looked at him with serious eyes. You are the first man, and the only man I really love, and will love in this world. And I will never regret what I'm going to do today. Unless, she suddenly looked down, unless you don't want me. Then she felt her man pulled her into a deep embrace. Never say that, please, Anko-chan. How can I do that to you, a girl who loves me with all her heart and saved me from death like that? So, Iruka answered her with a smile. Yes, I love you too. Anko's heart melted with each word coming from Iruka's mouth. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she pushed the man onto the bed, and plugged his mouth shut with a deep kiss. Iruka closed his eyes in bliss, ready to accept what was going to happen to him. Aya! The sudden agony scream of Anko made Iruka jump. What's wrong, Anko-chan? Iruka snapped his eyes open, panicked when the woman let go of his face abruptly and collapsed on the ground, screaming when clutching the back of her neck. From there, red glowing strings of curves and lines were spreading out, gradually covering half of her body. The woman thrashed around on the ground, definitely in excruciating pain. This must be Orochimaru's curse seal. Anko-chan, he repeated, jumping towards her, but Anko's limbs had started jerking around uncontrollably, unintentionally backhanding him on the face. Iruka-kun, run! Anko gasped and yelped in agony, writhing on the ground while clutching the place where the seal lay. It seemed to halt its way from spreading across all her body, but it was only temporary. Looking at the red mark wriggling around on her body was too painful for Iruka to handle. The fact that her body was in the nude only carved the pain deeper into his heart, looking at the seal spreading. Then the worst scream yet filled the air. It seemed Anko couldn't control her body anymore. The seal still couldn't spread further, but now, her limbs seemed to be pulled up like being hanged by a puppeteer's strings. Dark, purple chakra was blazing around her, and tears filled her eyes, rolling down her cheeks. Iruka grimaced. If it came to this. Just wait, Anko-chan, he said. You have saved my life. Now it's time for me to do the same for you, even if I have to beat you up a bit. Naruto let out a loud burp. You're disgusting, Karen wrinkled her nose. The blonde just rolled his eyes. The Uzumaki pair had just left Ichiraku Ramen after a very satisfied dinner of all kinds of ramen. No matter where he went, ramen of Ichiraku was still the best food in the world. That doesn't mean Karen and Saikyo's food wasn't good, though. But I have to admit, their ramen is really good, Karen noted. Maybe someday I should take a lesson from them. Then she felt Naruto suddenly stopped. She glanced at the boy, and saw him drooling. She muttered in disgust. Ugh, I shouldn't have said that. Hey, who is that? Naruto suddenly said, and pointed towards the end of the road. Indeed, there was someone rushing on the street towards them. And it seemed he was carrying a bundle of something on his shoulder. Naruto's stomach twisted. He remembered the time when Hinata had been kidnapped by Cloud Shinobi. Could it be? No, wait, that's Irika. Naruto squinted his eyes to see clearer. Indeed, the one who was rampaging on the street was Irika. His clothes was torn in many places, and he was panting heavily, as if he had just went through a very fierce battle. Wow, Irika-sensei, Naruto said when the teacher charged across their faces. I heard from people, but I didn't know she was that rough in bed. You two must have gone all out, I'd bet. Then he saw the bundle on his shoulder. It was Anko, tied up with a bunch of ninja wire and a gag, and was squirming around like mad, trying to escape from the bound. Holy shit, SNM in the first night? I didn't know you're into this, Irika-sensei. This is not the time for a joke, Naruto. Irika snapped. Her curse seal has just forced activated on its own, and it looks bad. I have to bring her to Lord Hokage, before it's too late. Say what? This is bad. Hiruzen looked down the body of the woman in front of him and grimaced. What's wrong with my sensei, Hokage-sama? Karen asked worriedly. Anko was given the curse seal by Orochimaru when she was still training under him, the Hokage answered. It had lain dormant for a long time and had only activated rarely before, but it has never forced activation this violently. I have restrained it by the evil sealing method, but I doubt it can hold for long. Is there any way to remove it completely? Irika asked. Naruto grimaced. Sasuke in his timeline had been given that disgusting seal, but he could have never learned how to remove it. He cursed himself not studying enough in Fuinjutsu at his time. None for now, Hiruzen shook his head. I have done research on it for quite some time, but I could only figure out 2 of the seals. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get a grasp on the 3rd one. If I do anything recklessly, it might even cause more harm than good. Then he grimaced. Orochimaru, the bastard. What we need right now is a master of sealing, who is better than anyone in the world, but where can we find someone like that? The 2 Uzumaki blinked, then looked at each other. On their faces bloomed the same smile. You know what, Gigi? I think we know where to find that man. After ensuring Irika that his girlfriend would be all right and sending him home, the Hokage sealed the room up, and Naruto crossed his finger, sending Gyuki out. You must be the great Eight Tails, Sarutobi bowed. It's an honor to meet you. Nah, those flattering words are unneeded, the Ox-man waved him off. Now let's have a look at that seal, shall we? Naruto, lend me your magnifying glass. The tailed beast in human form took the glass from Naruto's hand and checked out the seal. Then, he grimaced. I see. Orochimaru, that bastard. A genius, but still a bastard. I didn't think even he would resort to this. What's wrong? Naruto asked, alarmed. Gyuki didn't give a straight answer. Instead, he turned to Sarutobi. You said that you had managed to decode 2 seals in this, didn't you? Indeed, the Hokage nodded. One of them is a simple storage seal designed to store something, which I bet is Jugokun's enzyme, which allows him to draw in nature chakra passively. That's what gives the user a massive boost in strength and chakra, because nature chakra is much, much more powerful than normal human chakra. But it also comes with a great drawback. Alien enzyme injected into one's body might cause severe rejection if the body doesn't have the necessary compatibility. That's why Anko's body was in so much pain. Her body obviously isn't compatible with that kind of enzyme. Right, Gyuki nodded. And the second? The second seal was way more advanced than the first one, Hiruzen answered. It is a seal designed to store a series of mind-controlling genjutsu which affect the brain, ensuring loyalty of the host to Orochimaru, suppressing higher-level thoughts and sabotaging the ability of the host to reason and think logically. Basically, if a person with weak will is marked with this cursed seal, gradually his own self will be erased, and he will become a good puppet whom Orochimaru is the only thing in the world which matters to him. But of course, that will not always work with someone who has a strong mind to counter the effect of genjutsu, Or someone with anti-genjutsu Kekkai Genkai, for example. That bastard, Naruto growled out. So that's why the Sasuke in my timeline was so messed up in the head. His mind was sabotaged by Orochimaru from the beginning. And what's with the third seal? Karen asked. Yuki shook his head as if he couldn't believe it. You will have to brace yourself before hearing this. This third seal, and the most complex one, he stopped for a few seconds for the three people to prepare themselves, contains a part of Orochimaru's soul. As long as that fragment of soul remains attached to, and protected unknowingly by Anko, Orochimaru can never die for good. Following these words was the longest, densest silence the Hokage's room had ever gone through. Then, Karen croaked out in disbelief. His soul? Yes, Yuki nodded gravely. And it also has another purpose. You already knew what the mind transfer jutsu of the Yamanaka clan can do. This fragment of soul, in a way, is even more dangerous. Unlike the mind transfer jutsu, which has a limit of time in which a soul can enter one's body depending on the user's chakra, this fragment resides fully in one's body, and because of that, it can dwell into the deepest secrets and emotions within the host's mind and manipulate them. This, together with those genjutsu in the second seal, is the best instrument for Orochimaru to prepare a body for him to take over when his old body degenerates and dies. After the body dies, the piece of soul inside her body will activate and take over the body. This is his own twisted way to become immortal. So if the soul is split into many parts and stuffed into something else, you will not be able to die, huh? Naruto muttered. But that doesn't make sense. I have used shadow clone jutsu many times before. It doesn't have anything like that. The shadow clone jutsu needs me to split my soul too, right? The Hokage blinked. Who told you that the shadow clone needs you to split your soul, Naruto? Naruto was confused. Isn't it? Of course not. Hiruzen shook his head. If it's that dangerous, no one would ever use it. The fact is, when you use the shadow clone, a copy of your own soul is made and put into the clone to act as its soul. When the clone is dispelled, that copy of your soul returns to your own body, and overlays with the original soul, making your soul, well, how to say, thicker than before. That's how you receive the knowledge and experience the clone received. So the being of knowledge is still wrong about something, huh? Naruto chuckled in his head. Koko shrugged. No one in the world can be right all time, Naruto. I might have inherited my father's mind and knowledge, but after all, the sage of six paths is only a human. There is no such thing as a human who is never wrong. In fact, because the sage was a very smart and powerful person, his mistakes tend to be much, much greater than that of a normal human. Every wise person is like that, and I'm not an exception, you know. But if that really is the case, then we're facing a very big problem. Hiruzen raised his voice in concern. There is no way we can know how many fragments Orochimaru had spread his soul into. It means we're in the danger of having 10, 50, who knows how many more, Orochimarus running around after he died. And worse, we have no way to know who, or even what, contains the pieces inside them. Actually, I don't think we have to worry about it, Yuki shook his head. Splitting your soul might sound easy, but as you have just said, it's incredibly dangerous. The more mutilated the soul is, the less human the owner will be, in mind, and even in the outer body. The last time someone tried to do this, he couldn't split his soul into more than 7 parts. And that one, he couldn't even be considered a human anymore. I don't think even Orochimaru wants to be like that, so we can safely assume that his soul wasn't split into more than 7 parts. Speak about that later. Karen cut in. Yuki-san, can you break this seal and save Anko-sensei? She's clearly in pain here. I can, Yuki nodded. However, I can only completely destroy the part which contains the genjutsu. The part holding the enzyme, if I break it, it will release the enzyme into her body, and the sudden surge will destroy her body. And the part containing the soul fragment, I can break it and release the soul, but the fragment cannot be destroyed unless it stays inside something. We will need to destroy its container with a technique capable of utterly erasing it completely from existence. Naruto, can I count on you on this? Naruto's eyes widened. Yeah, I will do it. Just count on me. Good, Yuki nodded, satisfied. Then we will need a big space for this, because this might get messy. 15 minutes later, the 4 people arrived at a training field far away from the rest of the village. Alright, this is it, Yuki muttered. Naruto, do you know what you have to do? Damn right I know, Naruto answered, a little bit too enthusiastically. Shadow Clone Jutsu. You're enjoying this, huh? Kurama inside Naruto commented dryly. Naruto grinned. Of course. It's not like I have the chance to do something like this, right? Destroying an evil man's source of power and immortality. I think you're only eager to show off your new powerful jutsu to your Gigi, Goku quipped. Well, yeah, that too, but… Naruto admitted grudgingly. Good. Then are you ready? Gyuki looked at Hiruzen. The Hokage also nodded. Very well. Now, the tailed beast in human form turned back to Anko, now sitting in lotus position on the ground, her back bared. In his face, a bead of sweat rolled down his cheek. Evil sealing method, unseal. He yelled, and slapped his hand on the restrained curse seal on Anko's neck. Right when Gyuki's hand touched her neck, Anko let out a blood-curdling howl. Not being restrained anymore, the curse seal started spreading out in a dangerous speed. But it couldn't escape Gyuki's hand, and in a very quick movement, he stabbed his index and middle finger at one of the prongs in the seal. Release. The part of the seal which held the genjutsu shattered upon Gyuki's finger, touching it into a rain of glittering light. Not allowing the seal a second to continue spreading further, Gyuki's fingers flipped and stabbed into the second part, the part containing Orochimaru's soul fragment. A long, high-pitched scream tore through the air. Out of the seal, there suddenly bloomed a grotesque bubble with the shape of a distorted human, snake, head. It writhed in the air, and Karen had to take a step back in fear and disgust. It flew towards the girl in the last attempt to take over her body, but Gyuki was faster. He jumped into the way the soul was flying and whipped out a blank scroll. Seal! He bellowed, and the soul fragment of Orochimaru was immediately sucked into the sealing formula drawn in the scroll. It struggled to escape, but everything was in vain. With a loud poof, it was completely drained into the scroll, and a black kanji of seal appeared on the white sheet inside the sealing formula, showing that the soul fragment was completely sealed in the room. Gyuki immediately closed it and tied it up with a snap of the rope. Now, Naruto! He yelled, and tossed the scroll into the sky with all the strength he had when Naruto, upon his command, released the scorched style, Raisin Shuriken aiming at the scroll. Down, you two! Naruto screamed, but Hiruzen and Karen didn't even need him to ask. When they'd seen the potentially dangerous technique forming on Naruto's hands, they had already known what was going to happen and had been on the ground holding their heads when the atomic Raisin Shuriken left Naruto's hand and hit the scroll flying on the sky. With an earth-shaking explosion and a blinding flash, the scroll was erased from existence. That should do it, Gyuki said while standing up from where he had ducked down to. The soul fragment and the genjutsu were completely destroyed. They won't be able to affect her anymore. The seal containing the enzyme is still there, but if she doesn't want to use it, it won't activate, so it won't cause any harm. Is there any easier way to destroy those soul fragments? Karen asked. It's not like Naruto can be there to nuke them down every time, you know. Oh, there are, indeed, the Eight Tails answered curtly. What Naruto did was actually the very simple way of destroying something like that. Just blast it in the face with something incredibly powerful to damage the container, and the soul fragment inside to the point they cannot be repaired by any means. With a living host, the easiest way is to kill it. A suffocating silence followed the beast's words. Then, Hiruzen asked, but isn't that very risky? I mean, a living creature has a soul and a mind of its own, right? If it manages to usurp control of the body, all the effort of splitting his soul and making the seal will be useless. Not to mention the risk of the host being killed any time. Indeed, Gyuki nodded. But actually, the host being a creature has its advantage. When Orochimaru needs to have a spare body, he can just trigger the soul fragment and take over the body. Then if he really feel needed, he can transfer the rest of the soul from his original body and other containers into that body without much difficulty. And about the host being killed or usurping control, if the host is strong enough, or loyal enough. He trailed off, and Karen suddenly paled. What's wrong, Karen-chan? Naruto asked when he saw his sister's body starting to shake violently. Karen looked at him and muttered in fear. I think I already knew who hold the other parts of Orochimaru's soul. A direct assault to Otogekyure? The Hokage's meeting room was now filled with shinobi. Kakashi, Asuma, Guy, Kurenai, the old Inoshikacho team were here, together with Naruto, Sasuke, Shikamaru, Hate Gekko, Genma Shireni. Hiruzen nodded. More exactly, a large-scale assassination mission. Your targets will be Orochimaru's personal bodyguards, the 5 elite shinobi of Odogekure, the Sound 5. The order of action will be, here, the voice of the Hokage lowered into a deep, cold commanding tone, terminate on sight. What the Hokage had just said sent chill into the spines of everyone in the room. Then, after a while, Inoichi Yamanaka raised his question. We have just won a war against them. Why don't we just send a messenger over and demand them to hand over those Sound 5? After all, they did play a very considerable role in the war, you know. Indeed we can, Hiruzen nodded. However, even if they accept, it will need some time before we can get them. And we don't have time to wait. We must kill them as soon as possible, before Orochimaru's soul inside of them takes over their bodies and revives him. Silence filled the room for 5 seconds. And at the 6th, outrage and disbelief broke loose. What? I thought Jiraiya-sama killed Orochimaru during the war? How can he revive? Kurenai asked, horrified. He will revive soon, in fact, if we cannot kill the containers of his soul fragments, the Hokage answered calmly. That's why I call you here today, all of my elite shinobi of the village to assassinate them. We will need to do it quickly and without drawing unneeded attention. But why us? Shikamaru raised his hand. The Jonin here, we can understand, but why me, Naruto and Sasuke? We have just made Chunin for about a month. Our skill and experience can't even compare to these veterans. The Hokage's eyes narrowed. So you still doubt yourself, Shikamaru? No, sir, but... Hiruzen chuckled. Don't worry. You are all chosen with a reason, Shikamaru. Remember what I promoted you to Chunin for. My intelligence, Naruto's power, and Sasuke's skill and Kekkei Genkai, the Nara repeated. Exactly, the Hokage nodded. That's why I chose you 3 for this mission. Odogekure, according to Jiraiya's intel, has a lot of bases in different areas. Therefore, the force here will have to split into different squads. Each squad will go to each base and kill the Sound 5 member hiding there. Your sharp mind, Naruto's great raw power, and Sasuke's skill will all be necessary, and I have chosen you all especially for this mission. Here are the maps of where you will go to. Each shinobi went to the desk to pick up their map in silence. However, there was someone else who still had a question. Hokage-sama, a normal team for a mission usually consists of 4 people, Shikakunara said. But here, we only have 12 people. Even if we make 3-man squads, we can only cover 4 bases at most. And this is the Sound 5. And I'm pretty sure we cannot afford any more shinobi of Jonin level. You don't have to worry about that, Shikaku, Hiruzen smiled. Come in, please. The door opened, and 3 people walked in. Naruto gasped. You. Gaara of the Sand let out a slight smile, and raised his hand for a handshake. It's good to see you again, Naruto. In 5 hidden rooms within the separated bases of Odogekure, 5 people suddenly jerked up at the same time. It's time, they all said simultaneously with the same nasty grin. Chapter 26. Everything went wrong. Near the west base of Odogekure. Damn those Konoha bastards, grumbled one of the shinobi. Even Orochimaru-sama was killed by them. If he's still here. Like you really wanted him to be here, the other snorted. At least we won't have to fear that he will make us fight those experiments of him for amusement anymore. I really don't want to die like that. Remember that time when Hideki was literally torn to pieces by those things? Ugh. Right, the first one shuddered. I still remember how I couldn't eat anything for a week. A loud pop suddenly rose behind their back. They turned, and saw something that made their lower jaws fall to the ground, and their eyes pop out of their sockets. It was a girl. A very beautiful girl, with long, blonde hair pooling on the ground around where she was sitting. Her 2 bright, sapphire eyes were moist with tears. Her short, kinda skimpy yukata was torn and half pulled open, revealing her breasts, bared, without any kind of bra covering them. And considering the smooth, white skin she's showing at her waist, she wasn't wearing any panties either. She looked at the 2 shinobi, her eyes fluttered, and she stammered. Please, don't hurt me. The eyes of the Oto shinobi shone like the perverts they were, and they started inching towards her, giggling creepily. Oh, just wait, baby, one said while leering at her lecherously, his hands making obvious groping motions. We will take care of you thoroughly. You won't be able to walk for a while. HURK. He couldn't say anything else, because a kunai had slit his throat. Before the other one could realize anything, a pair of arms reached out for his partner's neck, and with a sickening crack, the Odo shinobi fell down, dead. And that's the one who killed the Odo shinobi, Kakashi said. How you weaponized the sexy jutsu, Naruto. I feel so violated, Naruto scowled, turning back into his normal form in a poof. Why did I have to do it anyway? Kakashi smiled. Because you're the only one who can use that jutsu. Besides, would you rather let Guy do it? Cue shuddering from every other male in the whole elemental continent. No thanks, sensei, Naruto muttered. His face was a bit green. Wonder how the others are doing. Naruto muttered. They were now standing on a cliff outside the center base of Odogekure, preparing for their secret assault. Don't worry, Naruto, I'm sure they're gonna be alright, Matatabi said. They're all good shinobi, they can handle themselves. I know, but… Naruto bit his lip. It's Orochimaru we're going to face here, if something happens. You're worrying about Sasuke, aren't you, Naruto? Naruto turned his head towards Kakashi, who had just said those words. He sighed. Of course I do. It's Orochimaru after all. He had wanted to mark Sasuke before. What makes you think he won't try to do it again? And now he's going alone. For a few seconds, there was nothing but the sound of footsteps on the ground which could be heard. Then, surprisingly, it was Guy who spoke up first, in a really calm, not hammy voice. Sasuke-kun has matured quite a lot since the first time I saw him, Naruto-kun. Hokage-sama didn't choose him to be one of the Chunin promoted in that exam for no reason. Before, it's very easy to manipulate him, but now, I don't believe he's that easy to fall into the grasp of evil people anymore. But… I think Guy was right, Naruto, Kakashi cut in. I believe in Sasuke. He is not the kid who's hell-bent on revenge anymore. He has the ability, and the right to think for himself, and I believe he will not disappoint us. He's just that strong, that boy. Then he chuckled. Besides, he's not alone, you know. Asuma and Kurenai are both veteran jonin. They will not let Sasuke be harmed easily. Hearing those words, Naruto's heart calmed down a bit. But even so, he couldn't shake away the feeling that something was going to go wrong, very wrong, in this mission. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe. First time taking part in such a large-scale operation as Sasuke? The Uchiha boy answered curtly to Asuma, who had just asked the question. Yes. But that doesn't mean I can't do anything. He still hasn't changed a bit, huh? Kurenai whispered to her boyfriend. Asuma chuckled. I didn't mean it like that. You see, you have skill, but experience you don't have much. So don't run away by yourself, you should work together with us. Charging ahead alone is not wise. The enemy is Orochimaru after all. Orochimaru. Sasuke's stomach lurched up a bit when hearing those words. It's true, that freak was incredibly creepy and dangerous, and the fact that he was dead couldn't do anything but saving people a lot of trouble, but somehow, in some deep place inside Sasuke's heart, he still wanted to find and confront Orochimaru. For what? He didn't even know. Maybe because of the man's vast knowledge. Maybe because of the idea of evolving further than even the Mangekyo Sharingan. Or maybe just because he was a powerful enemy he wanted to defeat. Or was that the Uchiha instinct calling him, pulling him towards Orochimaru in search of power? Stupid Sasuke. Don't even think about that. Remember what happened to your clan in their thirst for power. You don't have to get power that way. Oh, but isn't that the truth for you too, Sasuke? A voice inside his head mocked him. Don't deny that you're hungry for power. You need power to surpass Naruto, and defeat the one who did that to your clan, isn't it right? Shut up, Sasuke snarled to the voice inside his head. I need power, but not like that sicko did. I will never do anything like tearing my soul apart to be immortal. Oh, really? The voice continued to echo inside his head as if mocking him. Then why are you wondering about the way to gain power beyond the Mangekyo Sharingan? Admit it, the truth is your… Shut up. And get out of my head. So you're the intruders, eh? Sasuke looked up when he heard the unfamiliar voice. Next to him, Asuma and Kurenai had already tensed up, their eyes not leaving the new person who had just appeared. In front of them stood a person Sasuke hadn't ever seen before. He was just about the same age as Sasuke, but his presence before showed obvious danger to the shinobi of Konoha. His body was already very muscular for his age, and his hair was completely white, albeit with a very slight hint of blue. His purple eyes bore into the Konoha shinobi with a bloodthirsty yet calculating gaze. And his teeth were sharp and pointy, just like those of a shark. The boy, Suigetsu Hazuki, grinned menacingly at the three Konoha shinobi, showing the mouth full of sharp teeth. Sorry, but I cannot let you get past this place. A Chunin of Otogekyo was on his way back from his daily patrol around the base. There had been no suspicious individual around in his shift, which meant he could finally go back to his bunker and take a deserving rest. Just a few more steps and he would reach the entrance to the base. Then suddenly his voice was muffled by a giant hand grabbing his head and pulling him into somewhere he couldn't see. He tried to struggle, but suddenly found his body frozen in place, not being able to move even a muscle. What? He croaked out when his head was finally released by the giant hand. But before he could realize what was going on, another hand grabbed his head. Sweet dreams was the only thing he could hear before everything sank into darkness. You knew where the Sound 5 member was yet, Inoichi? Inoichi nodded. Yes. It's confirmed that the one in this base is indeed Kimimaro Kagaya, as we already knew in the strategic meeting. That means the intel Jiraiya-sama had given us was indeed right. And now, he is lying in the deepest place of this base, under a lot of protection. However, there is another serious problem we're facing right here. What is it? Choza asked. Inoichi answered grimly. The process has already been started. Silence filled the air. Then Shikaka said in a grim tone, We have to tell everyone this before it's too late. So that's it, huh? Kakashi looked at his hand and grimaced. Before they departed, the Hokage had given each team leader a seal which, when a team leader changed the content, would show that content to every other leader, for communication purpose. Damn it. Are we too late? Naruto gritted his teeth. They had gone the fastest they could hear, only to know that the soul-replacing process had been started before they could arrive. I doubt it, the voice of Gyuki echoed in Naruto's head. Remember, that fragment of soul inside that body, despite being that of Orochimaru, is still only a fragment of soul. Even if the host is completely loyal to that snake, it will still need at least a day for the soul piece to completely take over the body and stay stable inside it. We still have some time, but it won't last. We will need to go fast. Then we have to find the target fast before the process is completed, Guy said. But the problem is we don't even know where the target is. This base is too big, and we don't have enough manpower to handle all of it. A question. Is everyone in this base an enemy? I mean everyone? I said we should find a way to get to Orochimaru. I didn't say that we should make the whole base imploded together with him. Temari stared at the gigantic crater which, 5 minutes ago, had just been one of Orochimaru's base, with a face half amused, half annoyed. Gaara, the one responsible for this, just shrugged nonchalantly. You said everyone in this base is an enemy. Kankuro face-bombed. After having his seal fixed by Konoha, his brother had mellowed out quite a lot, and had stopped killing people for no reason. He had even said sorry to everyone, what no one could have ever expected on him before. However, somehow he now got a tendency to inflict unnecessarily massive destruction on his enemies. Just like what had just happened to the poor Otogekyo base and everyone inside it. I swear he got it from that Naruto guy, the puppeteer muttered. Ignoring his brother, Gaara descended down the crater on his sand cloud. Sand started to rise up from the gaping hole on the ground, gradually filling it up. But what is the meaning of this? Gaara's eyes widened. This is strange. Shikamaru muttered while sneaking around the corner. Genma turned to him, confused. What's wrong, Shikamaru? I don't know, the Nara bit his lip. Isn't this supposed to be one of the main bases of Otogekyo? I thought there would be more guards than this. Right now, they were on their way to the last room in Otogekyo's east base. However, all the way through the base, they nearly hadn't encountered any Otogekyo shinobi. Sure, they had met some, but almost all of them were grotesque experiments released from the cells of the base. There were guards too, but since they had set foot into the base, they had only met 4 or 5 of them. There's no way a main base of a village can be this devoid of human presence. Now that you said it. Genma stopped on his way, pondering, this is really strange. This base is quiet, too quiet indeed. Are they going to abandon it or something? Hate also wondered. But how is it possible? There are many important researches here. How can they move it from here that fast? Unless... I think that's exactly what happened. Hate and Genma turned their heads towards the direction of the voice. Shikamaru was standing in front of an open door, staring into the room with a disturbed face. Look, he pointed into the room. The two looked into the room, and at the same time, let out the same words. Oh crap. The internal of the room looked as if a tornado had just swept through it. This definitely was, or had been, a laboratory, but now, it was completely stripped of everything it used to have, machines, lab equipments, everything. And the most disturbing thing was the corpses of 5 or 6 scientists littering around the room, their blood splattered on the walls, and their lab coats were torn to shred. You're right, Genma muttered grimly. They had already abandoned it, even before we arrived here. That bastard Orochimaru has already gone ahead of us several steps. Shikamaru grimaced. But that means... Little brat, you should let us through to Orochimaru, or I'm afraid I have to force our way through. Soijetsu shrugged. Just do it if you can, old man, but Orochimaru isn't here anymore. A beat. Wait, what do you mean Orochimaru isn't here anymore? Kurenai asked, startled. Soijetsu shrugged again. Everyone in this base has left since this morning already. They're going to bring that creep Sakan to the central base, where they will join up with Kimimaro or something. Considering their speed, it might take until midnight before they can get there. Then we have to catch up with them before they can reach central base. Kurenai said urgently, and Asuma and Sasuke nodded in agreement. Wait a second. The 3 Konoha shinobi turned back to Soijetsu, who had just ejaculated those words to them. On his hand right now was something they hadn't seen him holding before. In a glance, it looked just like a big scroll with a handle, but looking closely, it was a wide single-edged blade with the scroll stretched on a platform at the back of the blade. And with a close inspection, the 3 felt chills on their spines as they realized that the scroll was made fully of explosive tags. Soijetsu continued a vicious grin. Who said anything about letting you out of here? Wait. Naruto and Guy stopped abruptly on their way as Kakashi raised his voice. He was now standing still, staring at the seal on his hand. What's wrong, sensei? Asked Naruto. Look at this. Orochimaru's soul fragments are not at the bases. They are on their ways to the central base, where they will join up with the last fragment within Kimimaro Kagaya. Sasuke's team has just sent me that, Kakashi answered grimly. What? Naruto exclaimed in horror. How can that be? We have already encountered some Oto shinobi on our way. Wait, let me check. He flared up his chakra cloak, and his eyes immediately widened. Shit! I really can't sense any emotion in this base. Except for 2, coming right towards us. It seems we've been detected. From behind a corner stepped out Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki. Itachi? Kakashi narrowed his eye. What are you here for? That's not what you should care about, Captain, the Uchiha answered curtly. Tsukuyomi. Immediately, Kakashi collapsed to the ground unconscious. The rogue Uchiha turned towards Naruto, his Mangekyo Sharingan spinning wildly, his gaze drilled into the blonde's face. Now it's time for you to go with us, Naruto-kun. Hiruzen Sarutobi looked at the sky and frowned. The shinobi he had sent for the mission were all the elite of the village. He doubted there would be anything bad happening to them. Even if they were unable to destroy Orochimaru's soul containers, he believed they would still be able to escape unharmed. So why was he still feeling uneasy? Suddenly, a scroll was dropped onto his hand. He jerked his head up, only to see a puff of smoke disappearing above his head. But he could swear that he saw something black and feathery inside the smoke. He opened a scroll, and his eyes widened. Oh, son of a bitch! What is the meaning of this, Itachi? Naruto shouted in confusion. Why do you attack Kakashi-sensei like that? If he's on the way, it will be much harder to capture you, Itachi answered, as if it was obvious. Naruto! Be careful! Kurama warned him from inside his head. I can feel killing intent coming from Itachi. Something is going wrong here. You will not take Naruto-kun as long as I'm here. Guy bellowed, jumping in front of Naruto, blocking him from Itachi's view. The Uchiha glanced back, and from behind him, Kisame walked up, grinning viciously. Then without any warning, he rushed towards the 2 Konoha shinobi. Samahata was brought down mercilessly on Guy's head like a hammer in a very wild and fast swing, with the obvious intention of murdering him with one slash. But Guy was clearly not an amateur. With an incredibly quick movement, he pulled out his nunchaku from inside his ninja pouch and blocked the sword descending down his head. The two weapons collided, making an eerie echoing clang. You! Guy gritted his teeth. Kisame also bared his own fangs in another menacing grin. Sorry, but Itachi here has his own business against the Ninetales. You don't have the right to interrupt them. Then he kicked Guy violently in the stomach. Being too close to his opponent, plus the giant sword holding both of his hands down, the taijutsu master couldn't defend himself against the kick, and was sent flying away from Naruto. Not letting his opponent recover a bit, the Sharkman plunged towards the taijutsu master and continued to assault him relentlessly, pushing him even further and further away from the Jinchuriki. Soon, the two shinobi disappeared around a corner, and the only thing allowing people to know they were there was the sound of their battle, which was now harder and harder to hear as the battle moved further and further away from where Itachi and Naruto were standing. Get out of the way, Itachi! Naruto snarled. Orochimaru's soul fragment is already on its way. If we don't stop it, Orochimaru will revive. Orochimaru can be dealt with later, Naruto-kun, Itachi answered calmly. You'd better worry about yourself, because you're going back with me to the Akatsuki. Then with a surprisingly fast body flicker, he appeared right in front of Naruto with a kunai on his hand, stabbing mercilessly at the boy's stomach. Only Naruto's reflex, which was enhanced greatly by the chakra cloak, helped him dodge the attack in time. This means you're not going to go quietly, huh? The Uchiha said quietly. Naruto jumped back a few steps, then faced Itachi with a glare. In his face, there was a mixture of hurt, rage, and disbelief. What is that? Sasuke blinked, staring at the strange object which had just appeared on Sujetsu's hands. Where did you get that thing, brat? Asuma barked out, his eyes also focused on the object their enemy had just pulled out with a wary expression. That is Shibuki, the blast sword of the seven swordsmen of the mist. It has been lost for nearly half a decade with the swordsman Jinpachi Munashi. How did you find it? Who knows? Suigetsu shrugged. It's Orochimaru who found it, not me. But since I already had a hold of it. He dashed forward, aiming at Sasuke, and the Uchiha tensed his muscles, ready to intercept the attack with his own sword. But a mere split second before the attack connected, his instinct suddenly screamed at him to dodge, as far as possible, if he still wanted to live, and trusting his mind, he shot chakra out of his feet, blasting himself back a few steps. And fortunately for him that he did, because right upon contact with the ground where he had been standing just a second ago, the exploding tags on the sword detonated with a loud bang as they left the sliding platform on the blade, shaking the walls of the base and sent Sasuke, even from a noticeable distance, stumbling to the ground. An exploding sword? The Uchiha sputtered, rolling on the ground a few times before finally managed to stand up properly. Suigetsu laughed gleefully. Exactly. And that's not even close to what this sword can really do. Blast sword jutsu, explosion bind. Then he slashed into the air with the explosive tag platform. The scroll unfolded, and a large length of the explosive tag roll flew out like a dragon and wrapped itself around Sasuke, who was too shocked and surprised to do anything. And boom, he finished with a crazy smile. The stripe of explosive tags detonated with another deafening boom, drowning the hall in smoke and fire. Heh, Suigetsu chuckled. But then, his eyes widened when the smoke cleared, and Sasuke turned out to be a substitution log. The real Uchiha was now being grabbed by the collar by Asuma, who had just jumped in to save him and pull him out of obvious death. And that's why you shouldn't charge in recklessly alone like that, Sasuke. You still have a lot to learn. The Sarutobi man glanced at Sasuke with a smile. You! Suigetsu gritted his teeth and lowered his stance, ready to charge again. Wait! Suigetsu stopped dead on his way as Asuma raised his hand. What? From the way you move and fight, I dare guess you have some relations with Kirigakure and the seven swordsmen of the mist. Asuma chuckled, drawing a puff on his cigarette. Are you, by any chance, related to Mangetsu Hazuki? Suigetsu's eyes narrowed. How did you know? Your purple eyes and white hair were a dead giveaway, Asuma shrugged. Besides, only one look at that sword and you can see it's definitely not an easy weapon to wield without blowing yourself up. In recent days, there were only 2 known shinobi with the ability to wield it properly, which were Jinpachi Munashi, the one that this sword was lost with, and Mangetsu Hazuki, the member of the 7 swordsmen who managed to master every of the 7 swords. He is indeed my brother, Suigetsu scoffed. But who cares about him? He's just a dead man who perished together with the 7 swordsmen. Now I already have this sword with me. I will start my journey to bring the 7 swordsmen back to their glory. I see, Sasuke cut in. But do you know that the 7 swordsmen have already been brought back in Kirigakure by the Mizukage? Obviously Suigetsu didn't expect those words. What did you say? Indeed, Asuma nodded. The 7 swordsmen has been re-established by the new Mizukage, Meitarumi-sama, with Sabuza Momochi as the leader. So it means Orochimaru has kept that from you to ensure your loyalty to him? To the Konoha shinobi's surprise, Suigetsu shrugged. Nah. I just stayed in this base because I feared that Snake would hunt me down if I tried to escape. Now that he's dead, and I already knew that information, what should I stay here for? I was planning to run away after killing you, anyway. Kurenai blinked. So that means… Yeah, Suigetsu resealed Shibuki and scratched his head. Though that old man Zabuza is somewhat annoying, he's still a great sword master. Working under someone like him might not be that bad. Then he walked out of the hallway, across the Konoha shinobi to the exit of the base. Sasuke raised his katana, but Asuma stopped him. Don't, Sasuke. If he's going to join Kirigakure, he will soon be our ally. We wouldn't want to damage our political relationship, would we? Hearing those words, Suigetsu turned back. Allies, huh? Then I'll tell you this. The escort force left from a secret exit at the other side of this base. But if you go this way, he pointed at another hallway branching from the main hallway, you can get out of this base faster, and can even catch up with them in a few hours if you run full speed. But, he showed his toothy grin again, that's all I can do to help you. See ya. And make sure that snake bastard stay dead for me. Then he disappeared in a swirl of water, is that even possible? Leaving 3 baffled Konoha shinobi behind his back. For a few seconds, no one could say anything. Then, Kurenai was the first one who managed to raise her voice. That boy was weird. He's just about my age, and yet he's already so strong. Sasuke grimaced. Kirigakure shinobi are always trained intensively from when they're just children, Sasuke, Asuma chuckled, especially ones chosen to be in the 7 swordsmen. Besides, I wouldn't expect less from someone related to the 2nd Mizukage. What? Sasuke asked, startled. He's related to the 2nd Mizukage? You don't know? Kurenai raised an eyebrow. Genjutsu Hazuki, the 2nd Mizukage, was said to be the most powerful Mizukage in Kirigakure's history. I thought that was covered in the history class in the academy? Sasuke grumbled. The truth is, he didn't hate history classes, but even he had to admit that it's the most boring class in the whole academy curriculum. Then again, who in this world could have liked learning history anyway? Alright, you can think of catching up with him later, the voice of Kurenai brought him out of his stupor. We have an Orochimaru to catch here, you know. Ah, right. Found M. Gaara removed his fingers from his eye and said, the truth is, the team didn't even need the notice from Sasuke's team. Right upon destroying the base, Gaara had realized there was something wrong when there had been almost no blood mixed into the sand. And they had departed to chase after the escort team before Sasuke's team knew that fact. They're about 3 miles from here to the south, and we're moving with moderate speed, Gaara continued. Considering the speed they're moving, we will need about an hour of running full speed to catch up with them. It's worth mentioning that the meeting with Naruto had pushed some kind of button within Gaara. Since that day, the Sand Jinchuriki had been training as hard as he could, and his abilities had all advanced in an unbelievable pace, which even his teacher and siblings, who had always thought of him as a genius, had to be utterly surprised. That didn't make him any less threatening and dangerous in everyone's eyes though, even when he's much nicer than ever before. Then let's go before they manage to go further. Kankuro pumped his fist. Are you nuts? Temari complained. We have been running like mad for almost 2 hours. And you expect me to run like that for another hour? But if we don't move fast, Orochimaru will get away. Surprisingly, this time, Gaara was the one who raised his voice. Temari is right. Even if we manage to catch up with Orochimaru, if you two don't have enough strength to fight, you will just be a nuisance. With Temari, Kankuro could argue, but with Gaara, there was no way he dared to. He slumped down in defeat. Ugh, fine. But if we fail this mission, it will be your responsibility. Gaara didn't retort. Instead, to the confused stares of his siblings, he reached into his tool pouch and pulled out a calculator. What are you going to do with that? Kankuro stared at the weird object in his brother's hand. And naturally, Gaara didn't answer him. He turned it on and started to tap the keys furiously. 3 miles, this direction, the maximum time should only be about 5 seconds, and the shooting angle, it should be about this speed and this force. All right. Kankuro, Temari, stand back. Wait, Temari's eyes widened. What are you trying to? Aya! She and Kankuro were swept off their feet by the sudden gust of chakra exploding from Gaara's body. What the? She stammered in fear. Is Shikaku trying to escape? Gaara, you can't. Shikaku? Wanna help? After all, this is time for you to stretch your arms and legs a bit, right? Humph. Now you asked me for help? Very well, but know that I don't help you because I like you or anything, human. From around Gaara, red chakra started gathering together with sand. It built up around his body, gradually forming the shape of Shikaku's head, which he stood within the mouth of. He stretched both his arms to the sides, then brought them together in front of him with a very fast and sudden movement. And the mouth of the Shikaku's head snapped open. It fixed the angle and direction, and started inhaling. No, saying inhaling was not enough to describe it. It was like all the air around the area was sucked in at once and gathered at a point in front of the artificial maw. In less than 5 seconds, a ball made fully of air was formed in between the maw, in front of Gaara's cupping hands. And it started glowing and heating up intensely. Gaara and the Shikaku head started rising to the sky. The ball of air in front of the mouth was glowing even more brightly, and was now starting to smoke dangerously, as if it was going to explode. Shikaku ready? Way ahead of you! He could hear his tailed beast snort inside his head. All right then, let's do it! And the voice of Gaara, mixed with a hint of Shikaku's tone, echoed through the air. Wind style, aeroblast! And the sky split in half. Faster! Faster! If we don't speed up, we won't make it to the base before midnight. We have to arrive at the base before that, or else Kabuto-sama will flay us alive. Geez, it's easy for you to say, Captain, but even if you say so, we can't go any faster than T. What the hell is that? The captain looked back, and saw something which made everything in his body feel empty all at once. A red beam of extremely compressed air, to the point it had already been plasmarized, surrounded by a violent vortex of wind, was tearing across the sky towards them with a deafening sound, as if a sheet of paper the size of the south base was being torn in half forcefully. Everyone in the escort team of Otogekyu couldn't help sharing the same thought. Fuck. And things exploded. There, that will slow them down a bit. Kankuro's eyes twitched. A bit? A bit? You just nuked down nearly half of the forest. I doubt anyone could even be in one piece after that. That thing. He looked at Temari, and was startled when he saw her eyes shone brightly as if she had just seen an incredibly, impossibly cute puppy. Such a cool jutsu, she murmured dreamily. Ugh, the puppeteer face-bombed. Now that they're incapacitated, catching up with them is only a matter of time, Gaara cut in. Let's go. Why should we go over there anyway? Temari asked. I doubt anyone can survive that blast anyway. If we can't see the corpses, we can't be sure, Gaara answered curtly. Now let's go. We don't have time to lose. A nod coming from Kankuro, and Temari knew she couldn't say anything else. When the sand shinobi arrived at the destruction scene, they saw something that stunned them. Of course, Gaara muttered. There is no way Orochimaru is that easy to kill. Otogekyo shinobi's corpses littered the site of destruction. They were all eradicated within the explosion Gaara's jutsu had caused. However, at the center of the crater lay something that looked like a coffin protected by some kind of purple energy barrier. Protected by the barrier, the coffin was completely unharmed, even by such a powerful and destructive jutsu like Gaara's aeroblast. The barrier started fading away, and at the same time, the coffin exploded with a loud bang, throwing the lid into the sky with a very thick cloud of smoke. And from inside the coffin emerged a human figure. Damn it! So the soul merging process has completed already? Temari gritted her teeth, and from inside the smoke cloud, a cruel, cold laughter echoed. You have come back, Lord Kadamaru. The figure emerged from the coffin let out a cruel laugh. I'm not Kidamaru anymore. Right now we are Oro Kimaru. Wow, that's creepy, Kankuro said in disgust when the body of Tayuya, no, Orochimaru now, stuck out its tongue and licking its lips like a snake. The Jinchuriki of the sand. Orochimaru in the girl's body sneered at the sand siblings with a leer. I see. Konoha doesn't have any intention to let me go quietly, Of course they don't, Gaara answered calmly. His eyes met the slitted irises of Orochimaru with a determined gaze. And not only Konoha, he unwrapped the gourd on his back, which fell to the ground with a thud. Upon touching the surface, it melted back into sand. Even Tsunegakure has a lot of things to say with you. For Tsunegakure, for Konohagakure, for our alliance, his hands curled into fists. I will send you back to hell, where you should stay and rot in. He thrusted his hand forward, and sand surged up from the ground, rushing at Orochimaru like a tsunami. So that's Orochimaru, huh? Shikamaru whispered when a creepy creature with 6 arms emerged from the coffin. Luckily for the young Nara's group, the Otogakure team escorting the soul fragment of Orochimaru hadn't left their base too far. Therefore, the Konoha shinobi could catch up with them in no time. However, they were not fast enough to stop Orochimaru from reviving. What do we do now? Hate also whispered. Our force isn't strong enough to take down this many shinobi, not to mention Orochimaru himself too. Then he turned to Shikamaru. Shikamaru, you're the brain of our team, can you think of some strategy? Shikamaru bit his lips. There are many usable strategies, but they all take some time to prepare. And who knows if they can do anything to Orochimaru himself. Yeah, but before that, you two should look at this first. Shikamaru and Hate looked at the communications seal on Genma's hand. Their eyes widened. What? Within the seal formula, there were only 4 words. Itachi. Ambush. Naruto. Danger. Itachi ambushed Naruto? How can it be possible? Sasuke exclaimed in horror upon receiving the news. The team was now rushing on their way toward the escorting team. Thanks to the shortcut Suigetsu showed them, they had caught up with the team in no time. Only a few minutes more and they would catch up. But that's before the sudden bad news from Kakashi showed up. Yeah, Kakashi was just that badass. Even before succumbing to the effect of Tsukuyomi, he had been fast and conscious enough to send the alerting message to every other team. We have to go assist Naruto immediately. The Uchiha insisted. His feet had already stopped on their ways, ready to turn back to where his friend was fighting at. No! Asuma said sharply. Our mission is to go and kill the soul fragment of Orochimaru. If we stop now, there will be no other chance to do it. And let Naruto die on Itachi's hand? Sasuke shot back just as sharply. Even Naruto cannot handle Itachi alone, if we don't go for him. Kakashi and Guy will take care of him. Asuma met the angry gaze of Sasuke calmly. They are all veteran shinobi. They will not be down that easily. Besides, if we don't take care of Orochimaru now, he will come back, and if he does, there will be many other innocent people dying, not only Naruto. Will you be able to hold responsibility if that happens, huh? GRK. Sasuke couldn't find any word to retort. It's not like he didn't know those facts, but somehow, when he heard the name Itachi, even after he had known the truth about his brother, he just couldn't shake off a weird feeling inside his stomach. What was it? Even Sasuke himself didn't know. Maybe some part of him still hadn't known what to think about his brother. And with Kakashi's word ambush, he could sense danger inside it. Why ambushing Naruto, if not to do harm to him? Or maybe some part of him just wanted to confront Itachi, his brother, to show him what he could do now, what he had become. Sasuke, if we want to go help Naruto, we have to finish our task fast first, the voice of Kurenai rose. Orochimaru is right in front of us. If we attack immediately, they will be caught surprised and our chance to win will be much higher. And how are you planning to do that? Sasuke said exasperatedly. They outnumbered us like 12 to 1. And there's Orochimaru too. Kurenai only gave him a smile. Oh, don't underestimate the power of Genjutsu. Orochimaru in Sakan and Yukon's body stretched his arms and said in a satisfied tone. Finally, I'm back in a body. Welcome back, Lord Orochimaru. One of the escorters stammered. We're really honored. Orochimaru sneered. Oh, are you really? Snake suddenly lashed out from under his sleeves, aiming at the shinobi's neck. Too surprised from the sudden attack, He could only scream out a gurgled noise when the snakes bit hard on his exposed neck before collapsing to the ground dead. Orochimaru retracted his hand and frowned. This is strange. Oh well, there's always time for me to get used to it. Gwa. Orochimaru's head snapped back towards where the scream emerged. And he saw his shinobi, one by one, collapsing to the ground, foaming at the mouth with spit and blood, definitely dead from something seemingly unseen. His body might not be the same, but his mind was definitely that of a veteran shinobi with the legendary Sannin title. He immediately formed hand signs and dispelled the deadly genjutsu before it had any effect on him. Such a dangerous genjutsu of that scale, he glared at something afar with a sneer. Just what everyone can expect from the genjutsu mistress of Konoha, eh? I'm flattered. Kurenai walked out from behind the tree with a smirk, flanked by Sasuke and Asuma. But flattering won't save you from going back to hell today, Orochimaru. Orochimaru licked his lips. Oh, you even have Sasuke-kun with you, eh? This will be fun. Get your head out of your ass, bastard! Sasuke snapped angrily. There is no way I let a molester like you get your hands on me. Enough with that stupid accusation. Orochimaru stomped his feet on the ground angrily. You have ruined my reputation since you started that slandering campaign against me. Wait, since when have you had reputation? Asuma asked curiously. Is this really the time to talk about this? Kurenai groaned and face-bombed. Now what's the plan, Shikaku? Shikaku nodded. We have confirmed that Orochimaru's soul transferring process has completed. And in that room right now, there are 5 Oto shinobi, all of whom about Chunin level or higher. Plus, there is also Kabuto Yakushi in there with him. But that room is not very large, and Noichi glanced at the room they're hiding outside with a worried look. If we use too much force there, it will alert the whole base. And we cannot deal with that many shinobi at the same time. Not to mention Orochimaru and Kabuto. That might be true, agreed Shikaku. But first, as far as I know, I don't think Orochimaru can move well enough in that new body to even think of fighting. And because that room is small, the force in there is pretty thin. If we launch a sudden attack, our chance to win will be very high. He looked up onto the roof. The problem is, we will have to launch the attack with utmost precision and synchronization. Can we be sure we will do it? Choza grinned. Since when has the Inu Shikacho trio not acted with perfect precision and synchronization? Shikaku also smiled, and threw a kunai onto a block of stone on the roof. It lodged into a crack. Welcome back, Orochimaru-sama. The Otogekyo force inside the room turned back towards the newcomer all at once. Who are you? Kabuto narrowed his eyes. I didn't remember calling for you. The new shinobi who had just come into the room bowed. I'm sorry, sir. I shouldn't have barged in without any call from you first. After all, he lifted his head up, his eyes gleamed. It won't be a surprise attack if you already knew about it, right? Then suddenly from under the shinobi's feet, tendrils of shadows lashed out and rushed toward the Oto shinobi like arrows. Only Orochimaru and Kabuto could notice them and jump away to dodge, but all the other shinobi were caught in the jutsu and were immediately impaled by multiple spikes of darkness spreading from the shadow tendrils. They collapsed to the ground, dead from hundreds of holes on their bodies. Shadow jutsu, Kabuto muttered. This must be. The newly entered Oto shinobi collapsed to the ground, and from behind him, a large shadow rolled out towards the remaining 2 people in the room with the power of a tank and the speed of a race car. Orochimaru and Kabuto could only avoid being flattened by rolling to the sides, and the spinning object slammed into the opposite wall with a boom, drilling a very big hole on it. Orochimaru-sama! Kabuto yelled, jumping towards Orochimaru, but another shadow suddenly jumped into the way between the 2 Oto shinobi, sending him back with a kick. At the same time, the giant human boulder, Choza Akimichi, changed its way and slammed into Orochimaru without any remorse. In such a small space, there was no way to dodge the technique, not with a new body he hadn't got a very good grasp at. The infamous Ino Shikacho team, huh? Even the normally calm and seemingly cheerful Kabuto had to frown warily. The person who had just delivered the sudden kick at Kabuto, Inoichi Yamanaka, grinned. That's right. And by the way, you're captured. Kabuto looked down, and his stomach twisted when he realized he was caught in the shadow possession jutsu of Shikaku Nara. When fighting alone, those shinobi, while still very capable, weren't that dangerous to someone like Kabuto or Orochimaru. But when they worked together, You are too dangerous to let live, Kabuto Yakushi. The voice of Inoichi once again rose. Mind destruction jut. Arg. Before Inoichi could finish his jutsu, he was kicked away by something from behind. He rolled on the ground, then managed to backflip onto his feet. And his eyes narrowed. Orochimaru, how did you survive that? It was Orochimaru who saved Kabuto's life. From under Choza's body, the face of Orochimaru's new body could clearly be seen crushed under half a ton of meat, but his body-shedding technique had allowed him to escape the fate. Thanks for the assistance, Orochimaru-sama. How? Inoichi gritted his teeth. How did you move like that? Your soul has just been transferred. There is no way you can adapt to that body that fast. Kukukuku, Orochimaru's new body chuckled sinisterly. That might be true, but how about I let you figure it out for yourself? From his sleeves, dozens of snakes shot out, launching themselves at the Konoha ninja. But Choza, recovered from his failed attack attempt, reacted much faster than anyone could imagine from a big man like him. His hand, clad in thick steel gauntlet, inflated into giant size, and with a single sweep, every snake was either sent back to Orochimaru and Kabuto, or crushed under the massive weight of the fist. TSK. Orochimaru clicked his tongue in annoyance. It's over, Orochimaru. Shikaka walked into the room. I don't know how you could adapt to that new body so fast, but I doubt you're in any condition to fight all three of us now. And he flicked a kunai backward, and suddenly the whole base started to rumble. The whole hallway behind him collapsed in a rain of rubble and debris, separating everyone inside the room from other Oto shinobi outside. There, he finished. Now no one can save you anymore. So your great plan is to trap me and Kabuto inside this room, eh? Orochimaru sneered. You're indeed good, Shikaka Nara. As expect from the greatest strategist of Konohagakure. Then why don't you just give up and save us the effort of killing you? Choza said with a victorious grin. Orochimaru just chuckled. Oh sure, of course I know that, that's why. I won't waste any time here. And with those words, Orochimaru slammed his hand onto the ground. A giant puff of smoke, then a humongous snake appeared from thin air and lashed out at the three Sunagekure ninja. Not even flinching, Gaara thrust his hand forward. The wave of sand he summoned immediately stopped the giant reptile on its way. No, there is no way this is everything he has. He immediately squeezed his hand, crushing the head of the snake with his sand barrier right before his automatic protection, the gift from his mother, sprang up and stopped the sword of Kusanagi from decapitating him. You surely adapted to your new body fast, huh? He said in his usual monotone voice while glaring at Orochimaru, who had just moved under the shadow of the snake through the detection of his sand to cut him down with the legendary sword. With a very quick movement of his hand, the ground where Orochimaru was standing erupted into a column of sand around the Sannin, and quickly closing around him like a cage. But the snake Sannin, true to his name, was just as flexible as a snake even in his new body. He whipped his body around, and with a round slash, the sand coffin forming around him was cut in half, allowing him a route to get away. He backflipped a few steps, distancing himself from the three Suna shinobi. TSK. So, are you ready to explain how you could move that well with that new body? Gaara asked sharply. Explain, or I will squeeze the answer out of you. True to his words, he squeezed his hand in a threatening gesture. Orochimaru cackled. I don't know if you can force me to speak or not, but if you really want to know. It's true, it shouldn't have been possible for me to move and fight so effectively in this new body. Soul doesn't work like that, indeed. Kurenai's eyes narrowed. Then how? Oh, but you forgot that the bodies I use are of my closest servants, Orochimaru chuckled menacingly. Not only did they willingly give their bodies to me, they also offered to assimilate their souls into mine. Because of that, the soul within this body, and all the other bodies I have, not only is whole and completed, but also. The grin on his face spread even more disturbingly. Everything in their memories, their jutsu, their Kekkei Genkai, is mine to use. The back of the shirt he was wearing suddenly tore itself apart, and from within it, another face poked out. It looked similar to the face of the body he was using, and when it was completely out, it leered at the three Konoha shinobi with a creepy grin. The face of Sakan's brother Yukon. In front of the three Konoha shinobi, the new body of Orochimaru started morphing in a grotesque way. The second head at the back of his head started writhing out of the shared neck, sprouting another neck holding it in process, and turned to the front, and at the same time, the body started splitting in half at the junction of the two necks. From the split, meat started extruding out, forming two new body halves and two arms. Now let's see what you Konoha shinobi can do about this. Double style, Grand Blazer. Sasuke's eyes widened. What? Two torrents of fire and wind chakra rushed out from the two mouths of Orochimaru, mixing together, and forming a raging blast of scorching flame, aiming at the three Konoha shinobi. Thanks to the fast reaction, the three ninja managed to get out of the way in time, right before the searing flame swept through the place they had been standing just a moment ago, and detonated, burning down a large chunk of the forest behind them in an instant. You see? Orochimaru gloated in sadistic pleasure. I haven't got complete control of this body yet, but the power and skills it possesses already belong to me. That technique is just like the one that Kakuzu of the Akatsuki used, Sasuke muttered. Although somehow it's much weaker. Right, Asuma grinned, dropping his cigarette to the ground. It means we still have a chance. The size of this force is considerable. 15 shinobi, seemingly all chunin or above, with the duty of scouting only. Following them, 15 more, in the triangle formation, leading the force and protecting Orochimaru from the front. Left side and right side, 9 each, all jonin. The flank 20. And there is Orochimaru too. There is no way we can attack without being completely devastated by them. Shikamaru's eyes snapped open. There is only one way, but… What's wrong, Shikamaru? Have you figured out the strategy? Shikamaru bit his lips and grimaced. There is one strategy, and I think it's the only one possible, but no. It's too inhumane. It will require us to murder all those people. I really can't. Killing 1 or 2 people was bad enough already. Now if you want me to kill more than 50 people, most I don't even know at once. No, I can't do it. It's massacre. Even if there are enemies. Silence filled the air in 5 seconds. And at the 6th, Shikamaru felt Hyade's hand grasping his shoulder. I understand what you are saying, Shikamaru. But this is not the time for fear of killing or meaningless honor. If we don't do it now, Orochimaru will get away, gather his force, and more people will die under his hand. If that happens, will you be able to handle the responsibility? Shikamaru couldn't do anything else but turn away. Then, Genma walked up and said, If you are not ready for the killing, then you don't have to take part in it. Just tell us what to do, and we will do it for you. Shikamaru didn't say anything for a while. Then, he closed his eyes and muttered, Fine. But if we want to use that strategy, we will have to run fast to get ahead of them first. The escort party of Orochimaru continued advancing in silence. After all, now that their boss was back, there was no reason for them to say anything anymore if they didn't want to be killed. Yes, Orochimaru is just that nasty. He likes to kill his subordinates, no, servants for no reason at all. Such a bastard. Right now, they were walking in a deep canyon between 2 big cliffs. If they got past it, the main base of Otogekyu would just be an hour away. A chunin suddenly snapped his head up and frowned. Hey, do you smell anything weird? The only thing weird here is you, idiot, one of his fellow chunin sneered. Pay attention, damn it. Only a few steps more and we'll get through this damned canyon. Then he muttered. I've never liked going into a canyon anyway. Suddenly the earth rumbled loudly. What the hell is that? Another no-name chunin yelled in panic. Stop panicking! Orochimaru shouted. Everyone, stay in place, keep your formation. This is just a minor earthquake. Right before Orochimaru could finish his sentences, very large boulders of every shape started rolling down the 2 cliffs. They bounced off the walls of the cliffs, making deafening crumbling noise and sending the whole Otogekyu force into panic. So that's how you Konoha want to play, eh? Orochimaru licked his lips in a grin. Very well. He spat out his sword of Kusanagi, and with only a flick of his hand, the blade lengthened and with a swing, it cut through all the boulders descending down their heads. The pieces fell to the ground with loud thuds, but not causing any harm to the Oto force. Ha! An Oto Jonin sneered. That's all you Konoha fools could do? Then suddenly, all of the boulder fragments started to smoke at the same time. And Orochimaru's eyes widened when he saw all the explosive tags stuck onto them, which were starting to glow brightly. Son of a bitch! Run for your life. Too late. Two giant slabs of rock suddenly popped out from underground, blocking the two exits of the canyon when the first explosive tag detonated. The whole mountain site shook. The gigantic explosion caused by hundreds of explosive tags, boosted by 5 years' worth of gunpowder which Genma had set in discrete but vital parts of the cliffs, utterly destroyed the two cliffs and every single living thing trapped inside it. The terrified screams, which were all stopped abruptly with the deafening boom of the explosion, wrenched the hearts of everyone standing near there, which only consisted of the 3 Konoha shinobi. As if that wasn't enough, the two cliffs collapsed, burying the remains of Orochimaru's new body and his minions into the ground, forever. No sign of life down there, Hate announced after checking out the destroyed canyon with a quick sensing jutsu. It seems the strategy was a success. Shikamaru didn't say anything. He just turned away, and if anyone looked at his back right now, they could see it trembling uncontrollably. Meanwhile, Genma was staring at the collapsed canyon with narrowed eyes. That's so strange. Is it supposed to be that easy? So now Orochimaru has access to the Shikatsumiyaku Kekkei Genkai of Kimimaro Kagaya, Shikaka muttered. This is gonna be troublesome. Of course it is, Nara, Orochimaru grinned nastily. Shikatsumiyaku is one of the most powerful Kekkei Genkai in this world, since the age of the Sage of Six Paths. Now let's see, how did he use it? Like this. He pointed his finger at the Nara Patriarch, and a piece of bone shot out from the tip of his finger towards the man with the speed of a bullet. Only the quick reaction of a veteran shinobi could help him avoid being skewered in the head. TSK, missed. He clicked his tongue in annoyance. He could already use the Kekkei Genkai. Shikaka thought warily. But wait, there is something wrong here. Spark flashed through Shikaka's head. If he really got mastery of the Kekkei Genkai, there is no way he would ask how did he use it like that. And that technique, while dangerous, can no way be the full power of the Kekkei Genkai. That could only mean. He glanced around the room. Okay, calm down, Shikaku, what can we use here? Gaara suppressed the urge to launch a full frontal assault at Orochimaru with his sand as usual, like Shikaku was nagging in his head about. Instead, his eyes stayed firm on Orochimaru, searching for a weak point to deliver a decisive strike. New body or not, his opponent was still one of the legendary Sannin, the one who murdered his father, the fourth Kazekage, and if he made any wrong move, he might get himself and his sibling killed by the wicked snake. After all, it obviously showed how much Gaara had matured since the fated meeting with Naruto. Suffice to say, Gaara wasn't the omnicidal maniac whose mind was just hell-bent on slaughtering and murdering mindlessly anymore. Now, he had friends, comrades, teammates with him, and although he still had the power, working together with his team made him stronger than ever. He felt Temari unsheathing her fan, ready to attack. He raised his hand to stop her. Don't do anything. Not yet. Oh? Orochimaru sneered mockingly. That's not like you at all, Gaara-kun. I thought you will immediately launch attacks at me in retaliation. I could have taken your head easily earlier. That's not enough for you to want to tear me apart. To feed my blood to mother? Hearing those words almost made Gaara snarl. I'm not like that anymore. Oh, really? Orochimaru laughed. Even with only a glance, I could tell that the monster inside you is very eager to take my life. Just look at the sand bubbling at your feet. Admit it, your bloodlust is rising again inside you. Those days without murdering makes you crazy, do they? You! All the terrifying memories, the sight of all the bloody murders he had committed flashed across his eyes. Why did that bastard make him remember about them now? He had wanted to forget them, to start a new life, to regain the trust of everyone. Don't listen to him, Gaara-kun. Gaara's eyes widened. Mother? Is that you? Of course it's me, dear, the voice of Karura echoed in his head. Don't let what that monster said get into your head. Haven't you already made up your mind? What you need to do is not trying to forget what happened, but accepting it and trying to atone for it. You don't have to fear him for those words, because what you have chosen was already the right thing. Gaara closed his eyes in silence. And then, when he opened them again, they didn't have the raging, full of hatred expression from before, but instead, a calm and accepting serene. You're not quite wrong, Orochimaru, he said. I still remember that time when I murdered people as a proof of my existence. And it's no use trying to deny it. And I also know it's not easy for people to forgive me about what I have done. But that doesn't mean, he raised his hand, and Orochimaru unconsciously took a step back, that I can't do anything within my ability to start making amends for it. And to everybody's surprise, the ground below them started cracking apart. Sand, grains of dirt, debris, everything within the earth began to rise and flying around Gaara, as if a tornado was spinning madly around him and his siblings. No way. Temari mouthed. I know Gaara is strong, but since when has he become this strong? This is Gaara's magnet style, at full power. Kankuro also exclaimed in awe. Temari, Kankuro, the commanding voice of Gaara echoed through the air. Get ready, because we, the Sand siblings, will work together to send Orochimaru back to where he deserves to be. The Sharingan of Sasuke bore into the grotesque form of Sakan and Yukon's body in front of him, not leaving for 1 second. Orochimaru licked his lips. Such a deadly glare, Sasuke-kun. You really are worthy of being my new body. Why do you want me so much? Sasuke gritted his teeth. If you want the Sharingan, why not going for Kakashi? He also has the Sharingan. To the 3 Konoha ninjas' surprise, Orochimaru burst out laughing. Oh, you really think the Sharingan is the only thing I'm after? So naive. No, I don't simply want the Sharingan. What I'm aiming for is the body of an Uchiha with the Sharingan. What? Then Sasuke remembered. Does that have anything to do with it? The power that surpasses even the Mangekyo Sharingan? Are you trying to get it by taking my body? Orochimaru chuckled. So you already knew about it? That's right. The Uchiha clan has a secret that even most of the members don't know. The final evolution a Sharingan can achieve is not the Mangekyo Sharingan, but another legendary Dijutsu which was even more terrifying, the Rinnegan. Gone? Sasuke raised an eyebrow at Kurenai and Asuma's startled exclamation. Rinnegan? What the hell is a Rinnegan anyway? The Rinnegan is the legendary Dijutsu which is rumored to have been wielded by the Sage of Six Paths, the progenitor of Shinobi, Asuma explained. But it's just a rumor. There is no proof about those eyes, or whether the sage even existed in this world or not. Oh, I'm sure the Sage of Six Paths existed in history, Sarutobi, and he was indeed the only wielder of the legendary Rinnegan, Orochimaru cackled madly. And just so you know, the original founder of the Uchiha clan was the very first son of the sage, who inherited the powerful Dijutsu from him, and that's the beginning of the Uchiha clan, with their infamous Sharingan. And now, I'm the only one with a way to awaken that tremendous power. He pressed at the word only with a gleeful smirk. What is the way to awaken it? Sasuke snarled, pointing his katana at the mutated man in front of him. Orochimaru just chuckled. Oh, Sasuke-kun. Why should I tell you about that? If you really want to know, the 2 heads licked their lips like a creepy 2-headed snake. The only way is to force me to tell you. Or even better, join me. Become mine, Sasuke-kun, and you will gain powers no one in Konoha can ever give you. I will join you when hell freezes over. Sasuke screamed, and lowering down his katana in a thrust, he charged at Orochimaru, Sharingan blazing furiously. Orochimaru cackled in glee. Good. Let's see what the last loyal Uchiha has to show me. Why? Naruto gritted his teeth. Why do you have to do this, Itachi? Is the Akatsuki's plan that important to you? You can betray what you always believe in like that? You're not in the position to tell me what I believe in, Naruto-kun, Itachi answered calmly. His Mangekyo Sharingan drilled into Naruto's eyes with such a great pressure that Naruto unconsciously took a step back. Despite that, Naruto still refused to back down. Despite what you did, your heart is still with Konoha. That massacre was just because the Uchiha clan decided to betray the village. Itachi's eyes narrowed. How did you know that? We figured it out, Naruto said impatiently. But why? I understand you want to save the honor of your clan, but this is just wrong. You don't deserve to be banished and hunted like a missing nin. You're quite smart for someone of your age, Naruto-kun, finally, after a few seconds of silence, Itachi admitted. However, there are things in the world a little brat like you can never hope to understand. Then without warning, Itachi flicked his hand, and a kunai flew out of his sleeve towards Naruto with a speed and force the Jinchuriki couldn't even expect from a throwing weapon, aiming at his stomach. And to Naruto's surprise and horror, the throwing knife pierced through the chakra shroud and lodged into his body. What? These weapons are made specially to combat Jinchuriki, Itachi explained in his usual monotone voice. Your chakra armor is indeed very powerful, but against these, It is just a child's toy. Naruto grunted in pain. He could feel his blood dripping out from the wound on his stomach, rolling down the chakra cloak onto the ground. Never before had he felt so disappointed, so angry, so betrayed. He grabbed the handle of the kunai and pulled hard. It came out of his stomach with a squelch, and the wound immediately healed up by the power of Kurama within him. If you really want to capture me that badly, he snarled, then come, but I will never let myself be captured without breaking a few of your bones first. Chapter 27, Darkest Hour. Naruto was sent flying into a wall. His back slammed hard into the cold stone with a loud thud. What the? So this is his true power? Naruto had known that the weakest in Itachi's abilities was taijutsu. His lack of stamina was the very clue allowing Naruto to figure out the hand of another person in the Uchiha massacre, and that Obito's words had been a complete lie. However, he had completely forgotten something even more important. Itachi, lacking in stamina or not, had still been an ANBU-level shinobi, the most talented ANBU in history to boot. His skill and experience in battle, therefore, way surpassed a 16-year-old boy like Naruto, despite the latter being sent back 4 years to the past. Murdering a whole elite clan might have been out of his reach, but handling one person, Jinchuriki or not, he's definitely capable of doing. And that was the reason why his ass was being kicked around by the Uchiha although he had full access to the tailed beast's chakra. The fact that he hadn't even expected something like this to happen didn't help him a little bit. Had it not been for Goku, who was a master of taijutsu, in his head, he would have been pulverized by the relentless assault coming from the Uchiha a while ago. You're no match for me, Naruto-kun. Itachi started walking toward Naruto, his menacing figure towered over him. Surrender and come with me quietly if you don't want to get hurt even more. GRK. God damn it. What should I do now? From the right sleeve of the Akatsuki cloak Itachi was wearing poked out something, and Naruto felt a chill in his spine when he realized what it was. It was the blade of a short but incredibly sharp tanto. Sweat started rolling down Naruto's forehead. According to what Gigi told him, tanto was the favorite weapon which Itachi was most skilled at. If he pulled it out so early in the battle. Itachi charged forward, his weapon brandished. The metal of the blade gleamed menacingly in the light of the torches in the hallway when it descended down Naruto's head. Projection. Not wasting even a second to think, Naruto willed a pair of big kunais to appear on his hands. His skill with the projection jutsu, especially with this particular weapon, had improved so much he could do it as if it was in his instinct. He brought it up to block the tanto on Itachi's hand, which was coming down on his head. The bladed weapons met each other with a clang. So that's your new ability, huh? Manifesting weapons from nothing? Itachi noted when pushing his tanto down even further, grinding the blade of his weapons on Naruto's kunai in the process. So what, if it was? Naruto gritted his teeth, struggling even more to push Itachi's short sword back up. Impressive, Itachi spoke, and Naruto felt scared when he realized he couldn't hear any strain in the Uchiha's voice. But having a lot of weapons doesn't mean you have the skill to utilize all of them. Then suddenly Naruto felt the weight which was pushing him down leaving abruptly. He jerked his head down, but his reaction could only help him lean back when Itachi's tanto slashed horizontally across his neck, avoiding decapitation in a nick of time. A thin line of blood trickled down Naruto's neck. He backflipped a few steps, panting heavily. Never before had he felt death coming so near. What the? Is he trying to kill me or something? Is that everything you got, Naruto-kun? From the other side, Itachi taunted. There was a hint of mocking in his voice. If that's the case, I'm disappointed. There is no way you can reach the level of other Jinchuriki. Somewhere under Naruto's shock and disbelief, he felt a ripple of anger. Oh yeah? Let's see how you deal with this. Blade Storm Projection. Naruto's chakra flared, and the air around him rippled. Hundreds of the same kunai faded into existence around the Jinchuriki, and started launching themselves towards Itachi at the same time with the speed and power of bullets. Itachi's eyes narrowed. This can be dangerous. He flipped through a series of very quick hand signs. Fire style, fireball jutsu. The signature jutsu of the Uchiha clan erupted from his mouth and swept across the narrow corridor, drowning it in a sea of fire. Every kunai Naruto projected was dispelled violently before they were even able to reach Itachi, leaving puffs of smoke in the air. Then Itachi's eyes widened when he saw 3 Naruto flying toward him. So that's his intention, huh? The 3 Naruto clones charged at Itachi and started launching a relentless barrage of punches and kicks at the Uchiha. In situations like this, following no actual taijutsu style actually gave Naruto a huge advantage, instead of putting him into danger. Why? Because that way of fighting, while reckless and dangerous to the user, was very unpredictable. Thus, even someone of Itachi's level couldn't know where the blonde Jinchuriki was going to strike next in order to promptly stop it. And when combined with the Shadow Clone Jutsu, well, the problematic level was multiplied a whole lot of times. And Itachi seemed to understand that, because he didn't bother to prolong the brawl anymore. Blocking the strikes of the 2 clones from both sides with his arms, he leapt up and delivered a brutal kick to the crotch of the 3rd clone, which was launching a fist at his face. The clone stopped abruptly in midair and gasped for air, leaving Itachi the opening to slash the left clone at the Adam's apple and the back of the right one's neck with just a swing. The 3 clones slumped to the ground. Right before a giant Rasengan flew over their heads, aiming at Itachi who hadn't recovered from his extravagant move. The sphere of chakra crashed at the rogue Uchiha's chest. Before he exploded into a flock of crows, which darted at Naruto like a storm of sharp, feathery kunais. Fuck! Naruto snarled between heavy breaths. Behind you. Naruto's head snapped back, and he raised his hand right in time to block Itachi's kick to his head. You have great power and speed, but that's everything you have, Itachi calmly glared into Naruto's eyes. You have to remember, not everything in the world can be forced through using power. Tsukuyomi. And Naruto found everything around him disappeared, and reformed. He suddenly found himself tied up on a pole, and 9 Itachi were surrounding him. Each of them held a kunai on their hands. And Naruto's eyes widened when he saw in front of him the figures of Hinata, Haku, Fu, Sakura, Sasuke, Kakashi-sensei, everyone he had ever loved in his life. The rogue Uchiha was going to. If he really was, there was no way Naruto could withstand that pain. You are within the world of Tsukuyomi, he heard the voice of the many Itachi echoing around him. In here, everything is within my control. If you don't surrender, I will just have to. Not on my watch. The world was suddenly shaken by a deafening roar coming from a certain cat. What? And before their eyes, the world started breaking down. Literally. Cracks started appearing on the creepy red moon, the eerie black sky, and the fabric of space itself. And with a loud noise as if a very, very big glass vase had just been smashed to the ground, the Tsukuyomi world shattered, and Naruto found himself back in the dark corridor of Orochimaru's base, glaring at the real Itachi who was now staggering back a few steps, his hand holding his left eye, from which a stream of blood was dripping down. You have just broken Tsukuyomi, Itachi said, still with the usual calm tone, but Naruto could be sure that there was now a hint of wariness in his voice. No one has ever managed that, even people with Sharingan. Heh, Naruto grinned, though he seemed a bit out of breath. Turned out I'm not that unskilled, eh? Then he raised his right hand. From his fingers, tiny hands made of chakra sprouted, and started weaving around the fingertips. In just 3 seconds, 5 small constructs made of wind chakra took form with a loud, eerie wheezing noise. Multi-mini Raisin Shuriken! He roared, hurling the 5 objects at Itachi. The mini Raisin Shuriken, while obviously no match for the original version in terms of destructive power, has a definite advantage when fighting at a very fast pace in a small and narrow battlefield, just like where they were fighting right now. This is not good. Even with only one eye, Itachi could still see the obvious danger coming straight toward him. He flicked his right arm, and from his sleeve, 5 kunai flew out and struck the shuriken straight at the core. The 5 Raisin Shuriken were forcefully detonated, and the corridor was suddenly covered in a violent gust of wind, sending both combatants back a few steps. TSK. Itachi looked down on his coat. His eyes narrowed when he saw deep gashes on the fabric. The technique hadn't even touched him, and yet... You know you're dangerous. Too dangerous for a boy of your age. Full control of the tailed beast, mastering a jutsu of that scale, even breaking my unbreakable genjutsu. There is no way you can advance that much in just a few months, someone like you. Who, no, what exactly are you? What I am, huh? Naruto gritted his teeth. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, a shinobi of Konohagakure, and if you want to know what I am, I will show you after I kick your ass. Then he charged at the Uchiha again, with a Rasengan already spinning wildly on his hand. In retaliation, Itachi only calmly lowered his stance, ready to face the assault incoming. Let's see what else you can do. The two katanas clashed against each other, leaving a series of loud clangs on their trails. Sasuke grunted. His swordsmanship, trained by Kakashi, an adept in kenjutsu himself, still couldn't match someone with the title of Sannin. Sure, with the Sharingan and his natural reflex, he could avoid the deadly slashes coming from Orochimaru's absurdly sharp sword, but it doesn't mean he could land any hit on the snake Sannin either. And Kusanagi is definitely not a legendary sword for nothing. When buying this katana, Sasuke had chosen the sword made with the most durable material he could have found in Konoha, in order to utilize the vibration nature of lightning chakra to its fullest extent. However, a few clashes with the blade of Kusanagi had already left many chips on the blade of his own sword, even with him coating it in lightning chakra. Orochimaru swung his sword horizontally, aiming at Sasuke's shoulder. The Uchiha raised his sword to block, and the two blades clashed against each other in a notably nasty clang. Do you know, Sasuke-kun? Orochimaru grinned menacingly. In a battle between swordsmen, the one with the better sword. Crack. Crack. Oh no, this will be the one who wins. Crash. Sasuke's blade shattered on his hand, and the Uchiha was sent stumbling back. Not wasting even a millisecond, Orochimaru's hand lashed out, grabbing Sasuke at the neck and lifted him up. Now you're mine, Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru licked his lips lecherously. Then he had to retract his hand quickly before Asuma's wind-infused blade cut his arm off like a twig. TCH. Asuma jumped in front of Sasuke, standing between him and Orochimaru. The usual cigarette was not on his mouth anymore, and his usual relaxed smile had also disappeared. On his face, there was only a warily stoic expression fitting of a veteran shinobi in battle. I have told you not to charge in alone recklessly like that, Sasuke. He threw a quick glance back at Sasuke, while still not letting his attention away from the snake Sannin in front of him. Only now did Sasuke realize how stupid he had been. Burning from anger and rage, he had completely forgotten, for a moment, that he was in this mission not alone, but with two other Jonin who were both stronger and more experienced in battle than him. It's just like Orochimaru's sight had sucked all the rationality out of his mind. I'm sorry, he said bitterly. I let my anger take control of my head. That won't work at all, Kurenai, from behind him, said. We can't let you fight Orochimaru if your mind state is like this. It's too dangerous. Sasuke gritted his teeth. So, now he was just a burden? As if reading Sasuke's mind, Asuma said. You are not a burden, Sasuke. But you have to calm down and cut it out with the whole cool boy, Avenger attitude. Being cool won't help you in battle, especially against someone as dangerous as Orochimaru. If you cannot control your emotions, you can't be called a good shinobi. Then he turned back to Orochimaru, but his words still aimed at Sasuke. You might be a promising chunin of the village, Sasuke, but I am still the captain of this team for this mission. You won't rush ahead without my order. Sasuke growled. Then what will we do? Asuma glanced at where Orochimaru was standing. We need to figure out a plan first. This looks dangerous. Orochimaru looked at the raging tornado of debris and dirt in front of him warily. He had done a lot of research about the Jinchuriki of Sunagakure before attempting to use him in the invasion. He had known that the boy possessed massive power, and had been crazy enough to abuse it solely for murder and destruction. He just hadn't ever expected that very same boy to be so calm and able to control his abilities so well. That made him way more dangerous. Gaara thrusted his right hand forward. All the debris swirling around him suddenly stopped in midair and rushed toward Orochimaru like a storm of bullets of all sizes, from pebbles to cannonballs, from every direction in front of him. Crap. That's not all. From behind Gaara, Temari roared and brandished her fan. From the weapon, a violent gust of wind was sent out and boosted the speed of the projectiles to ridiculous level. So they want to play like this, huh? Summoning, Rashomon. The giant Rashomon gate popped into existence in a puff of smoke, blocking Orochimaru from the incoming barrage. The rocks crashed into the gate, one by one, causing a series of deep, gong-like notes reverberating from it. The barrage finally stopped, but the damage it had caused to the shield jutsu was obviously clear. A lot of large dents and holes were made on the very thick steel plates of the gate. To think that you can damage the Rashomon this much without even using the beast's power. Orochimaru licked his lips. You have really advanced a lot in just 3 months, eh? Of course I did, Gaara answered coldly. And that's not the only thing I have learned during those months. Another lesson Naruto and our Konoha friends have taught me is... His hand snapped into a very quick hand seal before Orochimaru could react. Wind style, drilling air bullet. The cannonball made of extremely compressed air blasted the collapsing doors of the Rashomon apart, and continued its way toward Orochimaru in a violent vortex of wind. Realizing the incoming danger, Orochimaru immediately weaved through his own hand seals. Earth style, 5-layered earth wall. The walls made of rock and dirt rose up, hiding Orochimaru behind right before the wind sphere hit it, and exploded. Orochimaru was thrown away like a ragdoll, but the barrier had protected him from the worst of the jutsu. Ugh! He backflipped a few steps to regain balance. That jutsu's power could have matched the power of Shikaku itself. If he don't fight seriously, he might be killed for real. Teamwork always makes you stronger. Say what now? The ground under his feet suddenly cracked apart, and from below, something that looked like a gaping maw burst out. It was the puppet Kankuro had sent out discreetly since the start of the battle, only waiting for this moment. For the first time, the eyes of Taiya's body showed an expression of fear. The puppet closed around Orochimaru with a clack. This is so strange. Shikaku narrowed his eyes at Orochimaru and Kabuto. Orochimaru was one of the Sannin, one of the most powerful shinobi in the whole world. Even when he was not that familiar with the body of Kimimaro, he could still give anyone one hell of a fight if needed. And Kabuto, while not as powerful, had still proven to be a very talented shinobi, at least at Jonin level. But the way they're fighting right now, even with those handicaps, there was no way they could fight this awkwardly. Multi-hidden shadow snake hands. 10 big snakes lashed out from under Orochimaru's sleeves with astounding speed, aiming at the 3 Konoha shinobi. They had to wonder how all those snakes could fit under his rather tight clothes. They bared their fangs at the shinobi, the fangs with the deadly venom which could kill people with just one fang sinking into the skin. Choza swung his staff. The force coming from the big and heavy weapon was so great it felt like the air was being ripped apart. Slamming into the snakes, it seemed to force the innard of the creatures inside out, and this time Orochimaru didn't dare to take the attack head-on. He had to jump up, and the staff soared below his feet, smashing a big hole on the wall of the room. Just as I thought. That dodging wasn't because he had to, but rather because he wanted that. He wanted to open an exit to escape. Inoichi! We cannot let him escape through that hole. Orochimaru's eyes narrowed. So they have figured out, huh? Hearing the command, the Yamanaka quickly flipped through his hand seals. Mind disturbance jutsu. Immediately, Kabuto found himself losing control of his body. His limbs jerked up and his body shot towards Orochimaru, but not before grabbing a scalpel on the bed Orochimaru had just laid on. Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto's warning came right on time for Orochimaru to stop on his track to dodge the absurdly sharp knife aiming for his neck. Mind jutsu of the Yamanaka clan, he growled. Let's see if you can bring your hand to murder your trusted assistant to escape. Inoichi said victoriously, and the controlled Kabuto pulled out another scalpel from his pouch and started slashing at the Sannin relentlessly. Orochimaru cursed, and as he opened his hand, a bone popped out from his palm, and he gripped it as a sword to fend off Kabuto's scalpels in a mad dance of swordplay. Then his eyes widened when he saw the 2 giant hands of Choza coming toward him from both behind and in front of him. He snarled, then delivered a brutal kick to Kabuto's stomach, sending him flying away from him. But the damage had been done. The 2 palms clapped together, making a violent shockwave and crushed Orochimaru between them. Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto, who managed to escape from Inoichi's jutsu thanks to Orochimaru's hit, screamed. And checkmate. Shikaku said with a grin. Oh, really? Shikaku's eyes widened when he saw an eerie red light coming out between Choza's palms. This is all the power of the last loyal Uchiha? Orochimaru mocked while easily deflecting Sasuke's relentless assault with the blade of his Kusanagi. You still have a way to go to catch up with Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun. Those words definitely touched Sasuke's berserk button. Don't you dare saying things like that to me! He bellowed in rage. Chidori current. Lightning chakra blasted out from his body, shocking the breath out of Orochimaru, while making a small crater on the ground. Orochimaru's mouth gaped wide, and from there, another Orochimaru crawled out and dashed away from Sasuke as fast as possible. Then suddenly he saw Asuma appearing in front of him with his pair of trench knives, lengthened with wind chakra, coming down on his head. He immediately brought Kusanagi up to block the double slash. Wind met steel, making a loud, indescribable noise. Then Asuma spat a stream of scorching hot gunpowder to his face. Sasuke! Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. The gunpowder exploded into a giant fire ball upon meeting the fire stream coming from Sasuke, drowning Orochimaru in it. Did we? Sasuke asked hopefully. Asuma shook his head. No, not yet. Suddenly, something burst out from underground behind them. It was Orochimaru, and he was charging straight toward Kurenai, who was standing a few feet away from them, seemingly defenseless. No! The two Konoha males shouted and shot toward the missing Nin, but it was too late. The blade of Kusanagi had already pierced Kurenai's chest. Or it should have been, before Kurenai's body faded away from existence. What the? And Orochimaru found his body paralyzed in place. Genjutsu. He tried to mold chakra to break the genjutsu on him, and he smirked when the illusion on his body was broken easily. Now. What the? And he was completely shocked when he realized that he couldn't move his body an inch. He hadn't escaped from the genjutsu at all. One layer of genjutsu can be broken easily, but 7 different layers of genjutsu is not that easy to get out of. Orochimaru, he heard Kurenai's voice echoing everywhere around him. Now Sasuke. And he saw Sasuke coming like a lightning bolt toward him, with Chidori blazing brightly on his left hand. His eyes widened. There is no way I will die here today. Sasuke was stopped dead on his path when an unseen force coming from Orochimaru struck him in the face. He stumbled backward. His Chidori fizzled out harmlessly on his hand. What the? Then it was the time for his own eyes to widen. Oh crap. Did we get him? Temari asked hopefully. Of course we did. Kankuro nodded proudly. The inside of Crow is filled with very sharp, poisonous spikes, being trapped in their equals to death. There is no way he can. Suddenly the puppet on the ground started shaking wildly. What the? The puppeteer exclaimed in panic. This is... Gaara's eyes widened. He thrust his hand forward, raising his sand shield to protect all 3 Suna shinobi right before the puppet exploded with a loud bang, sending pieces of wood everywhere. The 3 flipped back a few steps, and the Jinchuriki's eyes narrowed when he saw what happened. Orochimaru's monstrous mouth twisted into a nasty grin. Naruto ducked to dodge Itachi's tanto coming toward his neck, then ate a brutal kick to his stomach. He grunted in pain and jumped back a few steps. This is bad. In a battlefield like this, what I think might be my advantage turns out to be my biggest weak point. What can I do now? What gave Naruto advantages during a fight with someone like Itachi were his speed and physical power. However, Itachi was one of the people who had mastered the power of the Sharingan to the maximum limit. In a linear battlefield, such as a corridor, like what they were fighting in right now, blitzing him with speed was just not an option. With the Sharingan and the innate instinct of the Uchiha clan, he could immediately predict where Naruto was going to move to and intercept him on his way. Of course, even Itachi couldn't predict how the constructs made of chakra coming from Naruto moved. That's why he didn't even bother to prolong the fight when Naruto charged at him. One hit to a vital point, such as the solar plexus or the crotch, was more than enough to send Naruto retreating. That meant neither could Naruto strike back, nor escape from the battle. What happened to you, Itachi? Naruto shouted. In his voice, the disappointment was clear. Why are you acting like this? Someone like you. You are not like this. Even though you have your reason to fight, you are still a hero. Why are you doing this? You know what the Akatsuki is doing is not anything good, right? Oh? Itachi raised an eyebrow. And why do you think that? You told Sasuke not to succumb to the darkness inside him. Naruto shouted. That's the words only a true hero can say. If you are not a hero, not fighting for the good side, why did you say those things? Hero, huh? Naruto's spine went cold with those words coming from Itachi's mouth. I don't know much about hero. The cold words of Itachi struck Naruto's heart again. But if you're talking about that, then I also have something to say to you. The reason I have to do this. Then suddenly, without any warning, he charged forward, his fist shot toward Naruto's stomach. Naruto raised his hands to block, but... Look out, Naruto! The Jinchuriki's eyes widened, and he pushed as much chakra as he could into his arms, shoulders and hands right before the punch arrived and crashed onto his palms. And he immediately felt both his arms becoming numb as a big shockwave blasted through his body, sending him staggering back. NGH. What the hell is this? It's a technique similar to what Tsunade uses, Koko warned him. He focused chakra on his fist and released it upon impact, increasing the power of his punch massively. The name of this technique was once called chakra burst, and it has been used by a lot of famous heroes in history. But it seems he hasn't mastered it to the point he can use it as if it was in his reflex like Tsunade. Still, be careful, Naruto. One direct hit of that, and you'll be dead meat. Geez, thanks a lot, Kokuo. Why did you wait until now to warn me that? Is that you are the one who ruined all the plans I have made? Then Itachi slashed at the air. Naruto felt something searing hot like a whip made of fire strike him across his chest. He grunted in pain and stumbled back. Not leaving the Jinchuriki even 1 second to recover, the rogue Uchiha rushed him, and Naruto's eyes widened when he saw the blade of the Tanto coming toward his shoulder being covered in a deep blue flame. Crap. A mere kunai wouldn't be enough to withstand this blow. He needed a better weapon. A weapon which could stand against any powerful force, which could stand against time itself, but what could it be? His hand touched something in his kunai pouch. Without even thinking, he brought it up, and a loud clang echoed through the air. And not only Itachi's, but Naruto's own eyes also widened in shock. What the? Because the thing he was holding on his hand was the very same tri-pronged kunai his father had left him. The knife was old and a bit rusty, but it still held itself firmly against the blazing blade of Itachi's Tanto, not budging even a little bit. Not wasting a second, Naruto grabbed the handle of the kunai with both hands like a sword and swung hard, and this time, Itachi's Tanto flew out of his hand. It spun on the air 1, 2, 3 times, and lodged itself into a crack on the wall. Now that's a surprise, Itachi staggered backward a few steps, but his eyes still glued to the new weapon on Naruto's hand. I didn't expect to face the weapon of the fourth here. Wow. I didn't know Dad's kunai is so strong. It is that old and yet... It's not that surprising. As far as I know, there is a high chance the metal used to make this kunai is mithril. The unfamiliar name actually stopped Naruto on his track a bit. Mithril? Yeah. It is one of the most powerful metals in the surface of this planet, much stronger than steel, yet lighter than aluminium, and is a highly effective chakra conductor too. It's a surprise that someone can acquire so much of this metal to forge all those kunai for your father. Then, Naruto grinned. He stood up straight and pointed the knife at Itachi. It's time for me to strike back. What the hell is that? Temari said in disgust upon looking at the monstrous form Tayuya's old body had just taken. This must be what Baki-sensei talked about, the curse seal in action. Kankuro grimaced. He broke my favorite puppet. I thought Crow was your favorite puppet. Oh, shut up. Is this the time for them to talk about that? Shikaku, of all people, complained. Gaara just raised an eyebrow. I must commend you, Tayuya's twisted voice rose, sending chills to Temari and Kankuro's spines. You, a bunch of genin who didn't even pass the Chunin exam before, have managed to force me to use the cursed seal's power. But that is going to end, because... Gaara's eyes narrowed when he saw his enemy pulling out something from his pocket. It was something long, wooden. A flute. He's going to use a sound jutsu. But the Suna shinobi had already prepared for this. Before the mission, they had researched about Otogekyur and their shinobi, and had figured out what kinds of technique they tended to use. And they had prepared special earplugs to counter the effect of those sound-based techniques. It's alright. If he uses sound, it won't have any effect anyway. But... Orochimaru's mouth twisted into another nasty grin, and he put the flute onto his mouth and started playing. And the air around them started trembling. What the... Temari's eyes narrowed. She realized that technique. After all, she had seen it before, during the invasion. It wasn't a genjutsu, but rather, a ninjutsu using the user's chakra to create sound waves to assault the enemies. A similar technique had been used by that bastard Zaku, using the holes on his hands to focus the sound waves into a straight blast toward the enemies, increasing its power and range. But this, instead of focusing it into a blast, it would. She immediately grabbed her fan, and with a hard swing, her massive wind scythe jutsu tore through the air and clashed with the sound waves coming toward them. Wind, after all, was also the movement of the particles in the air, very similar to sound, so when the two forces clashed against each other, they gnashed and gnarled and roared, then finally cancelled each other with a loud whoosh. "Oh? It seems you're not too bad, Temari-chan?" Each words coming from Orochimaru's mouth sent chill into Temari's body. She shouted. "Bastard! I don't need you to compliment me." "Really? Then?" Orochimaru smirked. The deep voice of Orochimaru coming from the body of a young girl like Tayuya was already creepy enough. Now, coming from the monstrous form of that very same body, it became even creepier. He bit his finger and weaved through hand seals, then slammed his palm onto the ground. Summoning jutsu. From the burst of smoke appeared 3 giant figures. They looked like 3 huge, muscular ogres, with their eyes and ears covered by linen and wielded different weapons, a club and a pair of claw-like gauntlets. The last one didn't have a weapon, but its legs were much more muscular and deadly than the other 2. Now, Orochimaru put the flute on his mouth and played. Immediately, the limbs of the 3 monsters started moving. They brandished their weapons, and with a sudden, fast movement, all of them launched themselves at the 3 Suna shinobi. Gaara's eyes widened, and he thrust his hand forward. The sand wall immediately rose around the 3 shinobi to protect them. But what the? Temari could only exclaim those words when the Oni using the club smashed through Gaara's sand barrier like tearing a sheet of paper apart. She jumped back, and skidded on the ground right before the heavy weapon crashed on the ground right where she had been standing just 1 second ago. Gaara's automatic sand barrier was a very effective technique to defend against normal ninjutsu and taijutsu. However, if the power of the jutsu was too great, it could easily plow through the barrier, as Sasuke's Chidori had done during the Chunin exam in Naruto's timeline, as the barrier was just a wall of sand. The thicker the sand wall was, the slower it could move around, and the less effective the defense would be. Glancing at the other sides, she saw Kankuro and Gaara also being attacked by the 2 other ogres. She gritted his teeth. None of them was a taijutsu specialist, nor had enough physical power to match those monsters in a straight power fight, except for Gaara. But Gaara alone could not protect both of them while stopping those monsters. Meanwhile, Gaara was still keeping his stoic expression. He thrust his arms to the sides, and 2 waves of sand burst out from the ground, pushing the 2 Oni away from his siblings. The one without arms immediately charged him at full speed and delivering a brutal kick to the Jinchuriki's chest, but the sand barrier immediately rose in front of him, and as Gaara's eyes hardened, more and more sand started reinforcing the wall. The feet of the ogre crashed against it, and the shockwave washed through the combatants. Gaara flicked his hand. The sand, which had just stopped the attack from the 3 ogres, surged up and bound the monsters in place. Sand burial! With a sickening pop, the lower bodies of the ogres were crushed like 3 eggs being stomped on by an elephant. Good! His weapons are disabled! Temari cheered. But immediately, to her horror, the monsters started climbing up. And before the widened eyes of the Suna shinobi, the destroyed parts of their bodies grew back, and only in 3 seconds, the ogres was as good as new again. Of course it can't be that easy, Temari grumbled. She raised her folded fan to block the strike of the club-wielding ogre, and winced when the weapon shook dangerously upon impact, sending numbness down her arms. What the fuck are you doing, Kankuro? Temari snarled at her brother when the 3 Suna shinobi gathered into the manji formation. She swung her fan, blasting the ogres away, but they recovered almost immediately, and continued their assault just as relentless as before. But the puppeteer didn't answer her. Instead, his eyes were narrowing at the 3 monsters in front of him, but he didn't do anything except dodging the blows coming at him. Something about them intrigued him, something he was sure he had never heard of before, but at the same time, it was so familiar to him, like something he had been practicing every day. But what was it? Then his eyes met the flute on Orochimaru's hands. Could it be Gaara, Temari? Kankuro only called their names, but that was already more than enough for the siblings who had grown up together for years to understand. Temari immediately swung her fan at the ground, and sand and debris was sent flying, making a smokescreen allowing the Suna shinobi to back away from the three monsters' attack range. What's going on? Temari hissed. If we don't find a way to get past those demons, there's no way we can touch Orochimaru. Yes, Kankuro answered her calmly. But if we fight like this, we won't be able to do anything. Those monsters are designed to fight people like you and Gaara. People who use great power to break through everything. If we continue fighting like this, soon we will get tired and become nice, easy targets for them to kill. Then what do you think we need to do? The blonde girl gritted her teeth. Then she realized. Wait, you said designed? Could it? Yes, Kankuro grinned. Those monsters are just puppets, just like my crow and salamander. But instead of using chakra strings, what Orochimaru is using to control them is the flute he was playing. It was no different from how my puppet art works. If we can understand the pattern, we can easily counter their moves. Right, Gaara nodded. But there is only one person who can do it. It was you. Kankuro closed his eyes. Then, after 3 seconds, he opened them again, but this time, they bore a grim expression. There is a technique Chiyo-sama taught me. If we manage to pull it, we will have a chance to break through, but I still haven't fully mastered it yet. Do you guys trust me to use it? Silence. Then Gaara nodded and gripped his brother's hand. You are our brother, Kankuro. Of course we trust you. Just do it, and we will do everything to assist you. The puppeteer grinned. Then, when the smokescreen died down, Orochimaru raised an eyebrow when he saw Temari and Gaara rushing at him, just like before. Those two didn't learn their lesson, eh? He put the flute back onto his mouth and continued playing. Immediately, the three ogres sprang to action again. They jumped into the way of the Sand siblings, and the club-wielding ogre swung its hefty weapon down on Temari's head with a blinding speed. If the hit connected, the girl's head would be smashed for sure. But, right before the strike could land, Kankuro had flicked his right index finger. At the same time, Gaara's right arm thrust upward, and suddenly from below, a sand geyser erupted, sending the ogre flying. The claw-holding one jumped at Gaara, trying to impale him through the sand barrier with its absurdly sharp weapon, but Kankuro flicked his other hand, and Temari spun on her feet, sweeping both remaining monsters aside with her full-power wind scythe jutsu. All of those were done without the siblings even losing their speed. So that's it. Using the chakra string, he takes control of his two siblings' bodies like puppets and guides them from outside the fight to negate the opening they show when defending the other. That will allow them to advance toward me without losing their speed. That accursed puppet art of that old woman. In this tactic, the puppeteer would take the role of the tactician, moving the pieces which were the two other members according to his strategy. The most effective way to stop this tactic was to stop the tactician. But if he tried to get his minions to attack the puppeteer, the two others would reach him in just a few more steps. And they weren't puppets, they're true human. Even if that brat died, Orochimaru wouldn't be able to live, either. How dare you brats! Forcing me back this much. The two Suna shinobi was getting very close. Only a few more steps and they would reach Orochimaru. But at that moment, Orochimaru removed the flute from his mouth, took a deep breath and, wah! Gaara and Temari bounced off an invisible shield made of sound and staggered back. The atmosphere around them was also vibrating furiously, and Temari had to cover her ears in reflex, even with the earplugs intact. And they had stayed still a second too long. In that very same second, the flute had returned to Orochimaru's mouth, and now, all three ogres were aiming at the most vulnerable member of the trio, Temari, who was now on the ground, holding her ears. Shit! Gaara shouted, and clapped his hands together. A thick wall of sand sprang up around Temari, blocking the three simultaneous strikes coming from the three ogres, but at the same time, he made a fatal mistake, leaving himself wide open. And the sword of Kusanagi was coming toward him as Orochimaru let go of the flute and charged him like a storm. Gaara's eyes widened. Splurt. No, Jie. The horrified gasp of Temari choked within her throat when she saw her brother being stabbed to the hilt with a sword, of everything. So this is everything the invincible defense can do? Orochimaru smirked. So disappointing. I have expected something better from you. He didn't expect to see the grin on Gaara's face. A Naruto-ish grin. Quite the contrary. Gotcha. His eyes widened when Gaara suddenly grabbed his wrist with both his hands. Then he suddenly felt the back of his head being struck by something hard. And strangely, after striking him at the back, that something just seemed to stick there, not letting go of him. Then another thing struck him at the knee, nearly breaking his bones. Then another struck him at the forearm, and the left shoulder, and the spine, and everywhere on his body. What the? The reason I let you stab me was because it was the easiest way to get close to you. Gaara stumbled back a few steps, but on his mouth was a victorious smile. Do you think that all the debris I brought up earlier was for nothing? They are all imbued with my positive magnet-style chakra, and when I channel my negative magnet-style chakra into you, it's over, Orochimaru. You are going to die here, and now. The last piece of debris collided with a loud boom, and Orochimaru was now buried under a big, heavy pile of rubble. There was no way his bones could stay intact under such a heavy direct barrage. And only after that did Gaara allow his body to collapse to the ground. Gaara! He has entered the Curse-Seal form, huh? Asuma narrowed his eyes at the two-headed humanoid body in front of him. From the brief fight they had had before, it was obvious that the ability of this body was tremendous. He could use collaboration jutsu single-handedly with the assistance of the head at the back, and it was very powerful, too. And with the curse seal activated, the power obviously would be boosted to a different level. However, was it really all of it? There was something else about the enemy in front of him which made his instinct scream in wariness. The chakra, the power of the jutsu wasn't everything. Maybe there was something else in his special ability, that second head. Well, standing here thinking would not solve anything. He glanced at Sasuke, who was standing right next to him. And somehow, that glance alone made Sasuke understand his plan. He nodded with a gulp. Then, with a very sudden and quick movement, Asuma pulled a handful of kunai from his pouch and threw them toward Orochimaru. And on their trajectory, they suddenly split into 8 more each, all coming down on Orochimaru's head. He's trying to overcome Orochimaru with sheer number. Sasuke, who was observing, thought quietly. But that won't do anything against someone like Orochimaru. Then suddenly, a loud bang shook the air. All the kunai simultaneously increased in velocity and shot toward Orochimaru, so fast it broke the speed of sound. Even Orochimaru couldn't dodge something like that. Kunai after kunai pierced his new body, making hole after hole on the monstrous flesh. Orochimaru collapsed to the ground and melted into a pile of dirt. Earth clone, of course it would be. Asuma gritted his teeth. I didn't know Asuma Sarutobi could pull out something like that. You really have grown a lot since the last time I saw you, eh? The 3 Konoha shinobi were startled when the real Orochimaru emerged from underground between where they were standing. They kicked the ground, making a distance between themselves and Orochimaru, and immediately went through hand seals. 3 blasts of elemental jutsu shot toward the snake Sannin, and the latter leapt up to avoid. The blasts only flew below his feet harmlessly. Then suddenly Orochimaru felt Asuma right next to him, his knife raising high. The blade of the knife was extended into a broad, long-wind sword, and was coming down on the nape of his neck, where the 2 bodies were joined. A sword made of wind itself is unblockable. And with this close distance, there was no way for Orochimaru to dodge the attack from Asuma without having at least one head decapitated. But if he didn't dodge, he would be cut in half. You little splurt. The body of Orochimaru split into 2, avoiding the slash of Asuma right at the brink of being separated by force. And that was the very thing Asuma was waiting for. From his place, Sasuke sprang into action. With a quick leap, he charged Yukon's body, which had just been ejected from Sakon's body. From a seal drawn on his wrist, 8 shuriken popped out, and he launched them at the body with all his might. They flew around Orochimaru's body and tied it up with the strings attached into them before the body could even touch the ground. Soon, the split body of Orochimaru was tied up into a cocoon on the ground, not being able to move his hand or even opening his mouth. Just as I thought. Something like that shouldn't have been able to touch him, but that body isn't used to moving on its own. That's why its reaction to Sasuke's technique was so slow. Sasuke clapped his hands together, and with the tips of the strings gathered in his mouth, he announced his final jutsu. Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. The raging dragon of fire exploded from Sasuke's mouth and rushed on the string bridge toward Orochimaru, who could only widen his eyes in surprise and consumed him, drowning him in the small inferno. At the same time, the second body of Orochimaru suddenly cringed up, letting his stance open, and that opening was more than enough for Asuma to close in and thrust his flying swallow straight through his heart. Ga! It's over, Orochimaru, Asuma said curtly. No matter how strong you are, you won't be able to escape this. Strike air! The blade of wind which was going through Orochimaru's heart exploded into a violent tornado, tearing the snake Sanin's new body apart from the inside. Even his snake-gathering technique couldn't help him when all of his organs were destroyed like that. We won, Sasuke breathed out, and slumped down on the ground but first. Yeah, Asuma nodded, and deactivated his wind blade. It was kinda too anticlimactic though. You're exactly right, the voice of Kurenai suddenly rose. Look! The two males looked, and their eyes immediately widened. Before their eyes, the corpses of Orochimaru started to melt. In just 3 seconds, the two corpses were just two other piles of mud on the ground. There was no other sign of Orochimaru on the battlefield anymore. You think you've already won? The three Suna shinobi turned to Orochimaru, who had just gasped out those words. Don't waste your breath, Orochimaru, Kankuro snorted. You will never get out of there with that messed up body. Just lie in there and wait for your death. No one would be able to rescue you. Heh. Even being crushed inside 2 tons of rock and debris, Orochimaru still managed to pull out a snarl. If only I could use my special substitution, but no matter, this is not the end. Then his mouth suddenly twisted into a menacing grin. Farewell to you, brats. Gaara's eyes widened. Shit! Back away, you two! The pile of rock which Orochimaru was being trapped inside suddenly exploded with a deafening boom, sending all the debris flying at the 3 shinobi. Thankfully, most of them were stopped by Gaara's sand barrier before they could harm the siblings. What was that? Temari stared at where the pile had been standing just 5 seconds ago. Did he suicide? No. Gaara grimaced. It was just a shadow clone. Naruto had used that jutsu on me when we fought before. Hey guys, look at this. Kankuro's voice snapped them out of the confusion. They ran to the coffin containing Orochimaru, where Kankuro was standing and staring down with a grimace. There was a gaping hole inside the coffin. Under it, there was also a tunnel which one single person could fit inside. The marks showed that it had just been dug recently. That bastard. He knew that he couldn't take on all of us in this state, so he sent a shadow clone to distract us when he ran away. We are all so stupid. Kankuro slammed his fist down on the coffin with a snarl. Now who knows where that son of a bitch has gone? Temari also growled. Next to them, Gaara didn't say anything for a while. And then, without any warning, he collapsed on the ground. Gaara! Temari exclaimed in horror. What's wrong? That sword Orochimaru was using must have had poison. Kankuro kneeled down and checked the wound on Gaara's stomach. True to the point, there was some sickly purple liquid leaking out of it. We cannot move him, or the poison will spread. Temari's eyes widened. Her brother, her supposedly invincible brother, was going to die. Then what should we do? Right at the time, 3 other people appeared on the clearing. It was Shizen and 2 ANBU members, who had been sent by the Hokage as reinforcement. Thank goodness I could catch up with you, the Jonin exclaimed. What happened? Where is Orochimaru? Orochimaru has run away. Can you please help my brother? He's going to die. Shizen cringed. Even though she had only seen the Suna Kunoichi a few times, she still couldn't ever expect the girl's eyes being full of tears and anguish, just like right now. She kneeled on the ground, patting the girl on the back. Okay. Let me see what I can do. What are you doing, Genma? Hei blinked when he saw his teammate trying to move the bloody boulders in front of them. We have to check whether Orochimaru is really dead or not, the elite guard member answered, still not stopping his work. Don't you think you're wasting your effort? The swordsman raised an eyebrow. No one can survive that avalanche, Orochimaru or not. Whatever, Genma growled. Are you helping me or not? I'm still the leader of this team for this mission, you know. Alright, Hei sighed, then casted some hand signs. With a loud crack, the pile of rubble collapsed one by one, and soon, what used to be a whole collapsed canyon became just a deserted field. How? Ninjutsu, chakra magic, blah blah, whatever it might be. Hate winced when he saw the mess of blood and flesh used to be under the pile of boulders. Wow. Shouldn't have done that. Son of a bitch. Both Hate and Shikamaru were startled by the sudden shout of their leader. What's wrong, Genma-san? Shikamaru asked. Orochimaru has escaped. Those words were no different from thunder exploding right next to their ears. What do you mean? How could he escape that? Hate nearly shouted at Genma. The elite guard only pointed to the ground. Who knows? Just look at this. The two other Konoha shinobi looked, and grimaced at the same time. On the ground, there was definitely a corpse wearing the same outfit as Orochimaru before. But if anyone looked closely at it, they could see it was completely empty. Just like a snake had just shed its skin. This means, said Hate hesitantly. Yes, Genma nodded grimly. We failed. No one realized Shikamaru's hands curling into fists, his nails digging into his skin angrily. You are not even trying to fight us, you are just finding a chance to escape, is it, Orochimaru? Shikaka asked, his eyes glued to Orochimaru, not letting any movement of the rogue Sannin out of his sight. Orochimaru chuckled. Kukuku. Indeed, nothing can escape the eyes of the greatest strategist of Konoha, eh? As long as we're here, you will never get out of this place alive, Choza boasted confidently, slamming the head of his staff on the ground. Oh really? Orochimaru let out a disturbing snicker which didn't fit Kimimara's monstrous body at all. Kimimara's body is the most powerful of all the Sound Five. I can destroy all of you if I go all out on it, but why bother? Then he bit his finger and ran through hand seals with a blinding speed. Shikaku's eyes widened when he suddenly felt a surge of chakra coming from Orochimaru, which even someone who was not a sensor could feel it. Summoning Jutsu. The chamber exploded when Manda, the king of snakes, appeared and blasted the ceiling off with his sheer size only. He thrashed around, sending the three Konoha shinobi flying when roaring madly. Orochimaru! How dare you summon me into this blasted hole of your den? Do you want me to eat you alive? Crap! Manda's tail lashed out wildly, and Choza had to enlarge his whole body in order to block it for his teammates. But even with that, he still winced due to the humongous force slamming at his chest. And in just that moment, Orochimaru and Kabuto had disappeared through the new opening. Damn it! Orochimaru and Kabuto have run away! Inoichi cursed, but with the gigantic snake thrashing around, there was no way he or any of the Konoha shinobi could follow the two missing nins. We have to get out of here first, Choza said urgently, and before his teammates could answer, his hands swooped down on their heads, grabbing them and taking them away from the giant snake with a leap from Choza, leaving him behind to spend his rage on the poor Oto shinobi who had just arrived at the site, completely oblivious of what was happening in the room they had been locked out of. We have failed, Choza said bitterly. Those words alone were enough to express the feeling of the three Konoha shinobi right now. For a few minutes, no one said anything, accompanying them was just utter silence. Then Shikaku suddenly stopped dead on his track. What's wrong, Shikaku? Inoichi looked at his team leader and blinked. Everyone, brace yourself and listen to this, Shikaku answered, his eyes still didn't leave his palm, where the communication seal was lying. In his face was a dreadfully grim expression. What? The Nara looked up. Every other team has failed to kill Orochimaru. They have escaped. All of them. Then it means... Yes, Shikaka closed his eyes. This mission is a complete, utter failure. What a drag. Itachi and Naruto's weapons clashed against each other in a series of deafening clangs. Naruto sprang back on his feet, breathing heavily. So far, he had managed to hold his own against Itachi with his new weapon. However, he knew that it wouldn't be long before he slipped and allowed the rogue Uchiha to deliver the final blow. That kunai of yours is indeed very good, he heard Itachi's voice from the other side of the corridor. As expected from the weapon of the fourth Hokage. But I still haven't seen you using the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Could it be, the voice of the rogue Uchiha drew out tauntingly, you don't know how to use it? Naruto gritted his teeth angrily at the taunt of his enemy. You said I was the one ruining your plan, he growled. What is your plan? And why does it involve me? Tell me! He screamed out the last part in a voice full of rage. Itachi's eyes gazed across his face calculatingly. Then, the Uchiha said in an eerily calm voice. You want to know what you did? Fine. I'll tell you. Your friendship with Sasuke is what ruined my plan. That answer definitely wasn't the answer Naruto was looking for. What? Your unbelievably fast growth is starting to become a nuisance to the Akatsuki, Itachi answered. And with your successes at defending the village from the Suna Jinchuriki, at bringing Tsunade-sama back to the village, the citizens of the village, including Sasuke, are starting to love you more and more. If I let you free, soon you will become a threat not only to Sasuke, but also to the whole village when the Akatsuki decides to attack for real. The less people there are who love you, the less anguish there would be when you're finally captured. Naruto couldn't believe what he had just heard. So to you I'm just a scapegoat for your so-called greater good? Yes, Itachi answered without even having to think. Either that was a blatant lie, or that boy is really messed up in his head, Isabu commented. Naruto's blood boiled. Don't screw with me. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Naruto clones filled the corridor in a big burst of smoke. Kailarge! He roared, and clone after clone rushed Itachi with Rasengan on their hands. Itachi calmly disposed of the clones charging at him with his sword, but his eyes widened when another clone rushed him from below, only to be dispelled by a kick to the face. And another clone aimed a Rasengan at his neck, and was disposed by a slash to his own neck. And another clone. And another clone. And another clone. Worse, every time he disposed one clone, another one appeared to replace it. NGH. This was becoming a battle of attrition. There was no end to those clones, and if he didn't do anything, soon he would be drowned under the sheer number of Narutos rushing him. Going all out was something he really didn't want to do, but if things had become like this. Amaterasu! All the clones were engulfed in the black, searing hot flame in just a blink of an eye. And Naruto's own eyes widened when Itachi turned his eyes toward him. Shit! It was fortunate for him to move his feet, because right after he lifted them from the place, the ground under him also burst into flame. Crap, crap, crap. If I stop moving, I will be burned into a crisp. Having fought Sasuke and Itachi a lot of times, Naruto understood quite well how dangerous the black flame of Amaterasu was. That wicked fire could burn through everything. Even chakra. One touch of the flame to his body would be able to take away one of his limbs, just like what it had already done to the right arm of the fourth Raikage during his timeline. If he let himself be caught in Itachi's sight, he's definitely done for. Up, down, left, right. Everywhere he could put his feet, the flame followed him. He could outrun it, but for how long? Suddenly he felt his body flying across the air. Not being able to watch where he was going, he had tripped on a rock. Whether it was just a random rock lying there or one Itachi conjured to deliberately trip him, he didn't know. The only thing he knew was that now he was flying uncontrollably, his limbs flailing around in the air uselessly. His back slammed painfully into the wall in front of him, and that was the very opening Itachi had been waiting for. In a blink of an eye, the rogue Uchiha had appeared in front of him, and with a sickening squelch, the blade of his tanto buried itself into Naruto's stomach. Time seemed to stop right at that moment. Naruto gasped out when the short sword pierced his torso. The pain wrecked through his body. It felt like his inner organs were being torn apart by the absurdly sharp blade going through them. But Itachi didn't just stop there. With professional, quick movements, the rogue shinobi pinned Naruto's limbs into the wall with 1, 2, 3, 4 of his special kunais. Naruto couldn't even let out a scream from agony. Air seemed to be drained forcefully out of his lungs. His body went limp, the chakra cloak faded away harmlessly. I really didn't expect you to fight back this fiercely. Itachi looked down on Naruto's limp body, which was being hanged up by the kunais embedded into his limbs. But I'm afraid this will be the end for you, Naruto-kun. Is this really the end? Naruto thought, feeling his consciousness fading away. I'm going to end like this. Then he felt something stirring inside him. Inside Naruto, the tailed beast could only look helplessly. No. Madatabi held her mouth with her paws in horror. Damn it! Gyuki growled. I knew there is no way Naruto is experienced enough to face someone like Itachi alone. There is no other choice, even though it's highly dangerous. Goku gritted his teeth. I will take over his body for a while and get Yuz out of here first. But before the ape could do anything, all the tailed beasts were suddenly shoved away violently with chakra. Raging mad chakra. In her beast form, Psycheo didn't have eyes. But that didn't mean she couldn't see what was happening outside. And as a tailed beast, she was basically just a giant mass of chakra. It meant things like flesh and blood were something she didn't have. But what was happening right now somehow seemed to make her blood go cold and boil at the same time. Terrible things in her life flashed through her mind. She saw Hashiramachi being impaled by Madara's sword. She saw Utakata and Ai-chan being pierced by Pain's black rods. And now, Naruto and Ai-chan was being skewered by kunais and sword. He was going to die, in front of her, just like both of her previous Jinchuriki. And everything around her went red. Now, it's time to get you back to the Akatsuki. Suddenly, everything around Itachi started to rumble. What the? A loud boom shook the world. Itachi was thrown away like a ragdoll by a force so great and sudden he couldn't even react. He was sent rolling on the floor uncontrollably, but finally, he managed to stand up, albeit a bit shakily. And his eyes narrowed. Oh! Naruto's body was once again covered with chakra. But different from before, instead of the vibrant orange chakra shroud wrapping around him like a cloak, Naruto right now looked just like a black and red abomination with 6 tails twisting in the air. The monstrous figure roared, and Itachi felt the whole corridor around him shudder. It's alright, calm down. This happening means he lost his control. Without control of the beast's chakra, he won't be as dangerous. The abomination snarled. Then, without warning, it slammed its hands on the ground, hard. And Itachi immediately regretted what he had just thought. From underground, giant spiky vines erupted in a furious storm of debris. Itachi's eyes widened when the vines shot toward him like vengeful spears. He jumped back and shot a fireball at the spears made of vine, but the appendages tore the technique apart like it was nothing. Amaterasu! Itachi shouted, and the black flame once again erupted, burning the trees aiming for him to crisp. But he gritted his teeth when more and more trees burst out from the ground and charged him, even fiercer than before. He frantically jumped left and right, barely managing to avoid the furious spiky vines which were all hell-bent on skewering him to bits. For the first time in the whole battle, the stoic Uchiha's face showed an expression of fear. I can't die here. Not now. Chakra was poured into both of his eyes. This was his final trump card, only used in a life-or-death situation, but he couldn't afford to hold back now. With a roar, the skeleton form of Itachi's Susanoo flared into existence. The chakra construct started gathering itself up, and before everyone could know, it had emerged in its matured form. The sword of Totsuka was drawn from its gourd sheath, and with a wide swing, a large portion of the forest of thorny plants was cut off. The Susanoo swung its sword down. A shockwave shot out of the blade, cutting through the forest of stumps and rushing toward the possessed Naruto. The abominable boy snarled, and let out a deafening roar. The shockwave was stopped dead on its track by the sheer power of the roar, making a boom which shook even the ground. The possessed Jinchuriki slammed his palms on the ground again, and another wave of plants burst out and launched themselves at Itachi again. But this time, with Susanoo, Itachi easily cut them down as if they were twigs. Suddenly, 7 noticeably large vines snapped out and wrapped themselves around Susanoo, locking the humanoid structure in place. The chakra structure tried to struggle, but the vines were just too strong. They squeezed the Susanoo with a strength no one could ever expect something like those vines could have ever done. The sword of Totsuka and mirror of Yato were both powerful, deadly weapons. But even they were nothing if the user couldn't move his hand to use them. GRK. Itachi grunted. He was starting to feel the drawback of the technique. It was just like thousands of needles were stabbing into his body. And his Susanoo, being an imperfect creation, was starting to crack under the pressure of the vines. He couldn't prolong this fight anymore. HRRRGGGH. With a loud battle cry, Itachi pushed the remaining of his chakra into the technique. The cracks on the construct weren't repaired, but it was starting to advance into the complete form. If it managed to reach that form, there might be a chance for him to escape from the bind and counterattack. Then he felt something bright and hot rushing toward him. The tailed beast bomb from the possessed Naruto shot through the air and pierced the head of the evolving Susanoo in a beam of light. The power of the blast was so great it ripped not only the whole head apart, but also a large chunk of the forest of vines and didn't stop until it was only a dot on the sky. Being damaged beyond repair, the chakra construct started breaking down, piece by piece. At the same time, Itachi curled up, choking on his own saliva. Everything blurred in his eyes. He had pushed himself past his limit. Using Susanoo had put too much of a strain into his life force. He had underestimated his opponent too much, and now he had to pay the price. A sharp vine lashed at him through the gaping hole on where used to be the head of Susanoo. Itachi closed his eyes. He was going to be killed, before his plan was even put into motion. And he was so shocked and surprised when the tip of the vine stopped right in front of his forehead right before they could pierce his brain. Naruto opened his eyes, only to see nothing around him except for a dark red color. What the hell is this? This is your mindscape, Naruto. Naruto jumped, his eyes glancing around looking for the source of the voice. It was Kurama's voice, but he couldn't see her in the blank space she had just called his mindscape. Kurama? Guys? Where are you? I can't see you. Why does my mindscape become like this? After seeing you impaled by Itachi, Saikyo snapped. This time, it was the voice of Koko echoing around him. She took over your body by force without even knowing about it, and is now destroying everything both inside and outside your body. If we don't do anything to stop her soon, you and everything around here will be crushed. Maybe we should just let her kill the bastard first, Goku commented snidely. This is not the time for that. Madatabi's voice rose impatiently. If we don't do something soon, not only Naruto-kun's body will be wrecked, but who knows if we would be able to survive or not? Even though Naruto couldn't see his face, he could still feel the embarrassment in the tailed beast's voice. Alright, Naruto, finally, after a few seconds, Kurama's voice boomed. First we will have to find Saikyo. Unless we can see her, there is no way to stop her. But in a place like this... Don't worry, I can do it. Those words had slipped out of Naruto's mouth before he even realized what he was saying. After a tense silence, Chome asked tentatively. Are you sure? I'm sure, Naruto nodded. I cannot explain, but somehow I can feel where she is. It's just a slight sensation, but I'm very sure she is there. And she's hurt? In pain? I don't know, but she's definitely needing my help. I'm going to bring her back. Walking, or as Naruto would describe, swimming in a sea of red chakra like this was definitely not an easy job. Sometimes Naruto felt like he was being swept away by the sheer power of the chakra. Luckily, this was his mindscape, not the outside world, so he didn't have to worry about being burned into a crisp by the powerful chakra. But in the end, he found her. Saikyo was there, snarling and growling at something he couldn't see, her chakra writhing angrily around her. Seeing the tailed beast like this, Naruto felt as if his heart were being crushed. He really couldn't imagine the rampaging creature in front of him right now was the same sweet and gentle girl he usually saw at home. He reached out and called. Saikyo-chan. Hearing the call, Saikyo snapped her head back. And Naruto was thrown off his feet violently by the massive wave of chakra the slug blasted at him. The boy was tossed across his mindscape. His face skidded painfully on the ground before he could stagger back to his feet. He wiped the blood off his mouth and muttered. Of course it can't be that easy. How in the world Naruto could bleed in his mindscape, no one could even know. Saikyo-chan, stop. The blonde Jinchuriki called toward the slug. Snap out of it. I'm still here. I haven't died yet. Naturally, those words couldn't reach the beast's ears, if she had ears at all. I will have to get close to her first. Wait, Naruto, stop. It's too dange. But Naruto didn't even hear what Kurama was saying. His body had already shot forward to where the rampaging tailed beast was at. He had just known Saikyo for a few months, but somehow, he could never imagine her being so furious, so crazy. Tentacles made of chakra shot toward him, but he dodged left and right, avoiding the deadly appendages and plunged himself ahead without even hesitating or losing his speed. Then a tentacle swept a horizontal arc, slamming at his stomach, sending him flying. GRK. Naruto once again sprawled on the ground. He groaned and pushed himself up. He really didn't expect to fight another battle when he was already in a battle like this. What are you doing, Naruto? He heard the voice of Gyuki asking impatiently. You can use the power of your seal to restrain her. Why haven't you done it? Naruto gritted his teeth. Of course he knew about that, but even thinking about that made him feel disgusted with himself. How could he bring himself to do that to someone like Saikyo? Someone he, even knowing that she was far older than him, still considered his little sister. Snap out of it, Naruto. Gyuki's voice once again rose urgently. You cannot afford to hesitate now. Your body is already breaking down from overdose of chakra. If you let this continue, we will all die. There won't even be a Psycho for you to save. What? He looked up, and even though he didn't understand what it meant, he could still feel there was something going wrong. The air around him was becoming a deep, dark red color. Like blood. That definitely couldn't be anything good. Sorry, Psycho-chan, but this is for everyone's, and for your own good. He put his hand on the seal on his stomach and twisted it. Itachi's Sharingan didn't take long to notice what was happening to Naruto. The crazy chakra had retreated back into the boy's body, and the cruel, mad rampage of the Sea of Plants had halted its way. Naruto's body seemed to be damaged quite a bit, but it was starting to recover when he was looking. This would be his only chance. The fading Susanoo immediately plunged its remaining intact hand into its chest, snatching Itachi out. Then, with a wide movement of the arm, it threw the rogue Uchiha toward Naruto just like the greatest fastball the world had ever seen. The Uchiha flew like a cannonball at Naruto, and the blonde Jinchuriki couldn't even react when Itachi planted a fist covered in the last of his chakra in his solar plexus. And everything around Naruto went black as he slipped into unconsciousness. Kisame narrowed his eyes when he felt the sudden spike of chakra coming from where Itachi and the Ninetales were fighting. He had never felt anything so powerful. Even when he unleashed all the power stored within Samahata, it was never that powerful. His face twisted into a menacing grin. He wanted that chakra. Even Samahata was getting excited in his hands. He would go there and take that chakra from the Jinchuriki for himself, and helping Itachi at the same time. He turned back to Guy. The smile didn't leave his face. You are a very good fighter. I enjoy the fight we have today. But I'm afraid I have to save it for another day. Then he flipped his hands through a series of very fast hand seals. Guy's eyes widened. Wait, that is... water style, deep dungeon jutsu. Immediately, all the air around Guy turned into water. Literally. In just a blink of an eye, the taijutsu master was trapped inside a whole corridor full of murky water, which seemed to harden right after touching his body. So long, sucker, Kisame waved with a nasty grin, then disappeared in a whoosh. Guy's head was starting to get dizzy from the lack of air. If he continued staying in this water prison powered by tailed beast level chakra, he would drown in no time. No choice then. Seventh gate. Gate of Wonder. Open! With an earth-shaking explosion, the water dungeon was vaporized all at once by the humongous chakra exuding from Guy's body. The force was so great it destroyed the small corridor they had been fighting in, throwing all the debris around. But by the time Guy managed to recover his balance, Kisame had already been long gone. Damn it! Kisame whistled when he saw the terrifying scene of destruction in front of him. Wow! I didn't know there was someone who could push you over the limit like this, Itachi. That Jinchuriki surely is more powerful than expected, eh? Yeah, Itachi nodded between ragged breaths. But I managed to bring him down, anyway. Now let's get out of here before anyone arrives and ruins it. Ah, the shark man let out a whine of mock disappointment. I bet there is still some time for me to take some chakra from that Jinchuriki. It must be so delicious. No. Itachi's glare didn't even make the shark man flinch a little bit. Oh? You are not in a position to threaten me, Itachi, he grinned menacingly, and pulled out Samahata. With you being like this, I can easily cut off your head and bring both of you back to leader. That would be way easier. Itachi's face didn't show any emotion except for a raised eyebrow. But on second thought, nah, Kisame suddenly shrugged and put his sword back on its holster on his back. It's just not worth it to lose such a partner as you, eh? Alright, let's just get out of here, he said, hauling Naruto's unconscious body up, before that green freak catches up to us. Had Kisame not turning around, he would have seen Itachi grimacing. Then suddenly without warning, Itachi collapsed on the ground. He kneeled down on both his hands, puking out a glob of blood. Are you sure you can walk, Itachi? Kisame glanced back with a raised eyebrow. I can carry both you and the Jinchuriki if you need. No. No, I'm fine, the Uchiha croaked out, pushing himself up. Let's go. Just how much more dangerous can you become, Naruto-kun? Guy landed next to an unconscious Kakashi with a thud. He frowned at his rival's unmoving body. This is definitely not youthful at all, Kakashi. Tell me about it, the one-eyed shinobi on the ground groaned to answer him. Why did that Itachi have to be so cruel to me? What did he do? Guy raised one of his giant, bushy eyebrows. Kakashi groaned. He burnt every single copy of the Ika ever printed in the whole world, in front of me, and killed all the characters in the book for 72 hours straight. Really? Yeah, the oh-so-ever-great copy ninja moaned. And somehow that managed to make me faint and leave me paralyzed like this. Help me, Guy. I can't even move my body now. Right at that time, Tsunade and her backup team landed next to the two shinobi. What the hell happened here? The Sannin barked when she saw the forest of thorny plants and the black flames still flickering around them. Guy lowered his head. I'm sorry, Tsunade-sama. Itachi Uchiha and his partner ambushed us when we arrived here, preventing us from going after Orochimaru, and he managed to capture Naruto Uzumaki. I will walk 1,000 laps around the village with only a finger as a punishment for my failure. Following those words were the eeriest silence anyone could have ever heard. Then Tsunade's hands curled into fists. Boom! The remaining of the corridor walls shattered into a pile of dust. It seems Konoha isn't as powerful as we have expected. Yes, but Sasuke-kun is still gifted as ever. He will definitely make a good body if we can get a hand on him. Kukukuku. Sasuke-kun is not that important anymore. Did you get the DNA samples? Oh, of course. It was a bit of a pain to take it, but here we go. Soon, the perfect reincarnation will be completed, and nothing else in this world can match us. Yes, but now we will have to find a place to settle down first, Orochimaru-sama. This place is not suitable for your recovery and experiments. A long laughter echoed from 5 of the 6 human figures through the dark cavern. Soon, very soon,